The wolf stood at my door. Not just any wolf, an alpha, 7 feet tall in his half-shifted form, muscles rippling under silver fur, eyes glowing like molten gold in the darkness. His claws scraped against my wooden porch, leaving deep grooves in the old oak. Behind him I could see them, dozens of wolves, some in human form, some fully shifted, some caught between, all of them staring at me with the same burning rage. "You have something that belongs to us," the alpha growled, his voice so deep it made my bones vibrate. I held the door frame tighter, my knuckles going white. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might explode right out of my chest. "I don't know what you're talking about," I whispered, even though we both knew I was lying. Because upstairs, hiding under my bed, was a little boy with silver eyes and wolf ears. A boy I'd found 3 days ago, bleeding and scared in the woods. A boy I'd fed, cleaned, and promised to protect. A boy who was the alpha's son. The alpha's lips pulled back, showing teeth as long as my fingers. "Give him back, now, or I will burn this house to the ground with you inside it." My legs were shaking. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run, to hide, to do whatever this terrifying creature wanted. But then I heard it, a tiny whimper from upstairs, the sound of a scared child who'd already been hurt too much. I lifted my chin and looked the alpha straight in his burning gold eyes. "No." The word hung in the air between us like a bomb about to explode. The alpha's eyes went wide, then narrow, then so bright with rage they looked like twin suns. "You just signed your death warrant, human. My name is Emma Clark, and 3 days ago I made the biggest mistake of my life. Or maybe it was the best decision I ever made, I still don't know." It was raining that night, not the gentle kind of rain that makes everything pretty and romantic. No, this was the angry kind, the kind that comes down in sheets and turns the forest into a dark, dangerous maze. I was driving home from my job at the library. My car was old and made weird noises, but it got me where I needed to go. The road through the forest was empty like always. Nobody really used this route anymore except for me and a few other people who lived out in the middle of nowhere. I liked living away from the city. It was quiet, peaceful, safe. At least I thought it was safe. The headlights caught something on the road, something small and pale and not moving. My heart jumped into my throat. I slammed on the brakes. The car skidded a little on the wet road but stopped just in time. For a second I just sat there, gripping the steering wheel, trying to catch my breath. Then I saw it move. I threw open the door and ran out into the rain, not even caring that I was getting soaked. My shoes splashed through puddles as I ran to the thing in the road. It wasn't a thing, it was a child. A little boy, maybe 5 or 6 years old, lying on his side on the cold, wet pavement. He was wearing torn clothes that looked like they used to be nice, but were now covered in dirt and blood. His dark hair was plastered to his head, and his skin was so pale I thought he might be dead. "Oh my God," I breathed, dropping to my knees beside him. "Hey, sweetie, can you hear me?" His eyes fluttered open and I gasped. They were silver, not grey, not light blue, silver, like actual liquid silver was swirling around in his eyes. And on top of his head, barely visible in his wet hair, were 2 small wolf ears. I should have been scared. I should have run back to my car and driven away as fast as I could. But all I could think was that this child was hurt and alone and needed help. "It's okay," I said softly, reaching out to touch his shoulder. "I'm not going to hurt you, can you move?" He whimpered, and the sound broke my heart into a million pieces. I looked around, but there was nothing. No cars, no houses, no people, just trees and rain and darkness. "All right, buddy, I'm going to pick you up, okay? We're going to get you somewhere warm and safe." He didn't respond, but he didn't pull away either when I carefully slid my arms under him and lifted. He was so light, like he weighed almost nothing. His head rolled against my shoulder, and I could feel him shivering even through my wet jacket. I carried him to my car and laid him across the back seat as gently as I could. Then I grabbed the emergency blanket from my trunk and wrapped it around him. His eyes opened again, just for a second, and he looked at me with so much fear and pain that I wanted to cry. "You're safe now," I promised him. "I've got you." Then I got in the driver's seat and drove home faster than I'd ever driven in my life. My house was small, just 1 story, 2 bedrooms, a kitchen and a living room. But it was mine and it was warm, and right now that was all that mattered. I carried the boy inside and took him straight to the bathroom. His clothes were so torn and dirty I had to cut them off with scissors. Underneath, his skin was covered in bruises and scratches. Some of them looked fresh, some looked like they were a few days old. Someone had hurt this child, hurt him badly. My hands were shaking as I filled the bathtub with warm water. Not too hot, because I didn't want to shock his system. I lifted him carefully into the tub, supporting his head so it wouldn't go under. The water around him turned pink with blood. I cleaned him as gently as I could, washing away the dirt and blood, checking for serious wounds. Most of the cuts were shallow, but there was one deep gash on his side that made me wince. "This is going to sting a little, sweetie," I said as I cleaned it with antiseptic. He didn't even react. His eyes were closed now, and for a terrifying moment I thought he'd died. But then I saw his chest rising and falling, slow and steady. After I got him clean and bandaged, I dried him off and dressed him in one of my oversized t-shirts. It hung on him like a dress, but it was clean and dry and soft. I carried him to my guest bedroom and tucked him into bed, piling blankets on top of him until only his little face was showing. Those wolf ears were still there, twitching slightly in his sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed and just looked at him for a long time, trying to make sense of what was happening. Werewolves were real. That much was obvious. I'd heard stories, of course. Everyone had. Tales about wolf packs that lived deep in the forest, about people who could shift between human and animal form, about ancient laws and territorial wars. But I'd always thought they were just stories, myths, things to scare children with at bedtime. Now there was a werewolf child sleeping in my guest bed, and I had no idea what to do. I should call someone, the police, animal control, but what would I even say? "Hi, I found a werewolf kid on the road, can you come pick him up?" And what if whoever hurt him came looking for him? What if calling the authorities just put him in more danger? No, I couldn't risk it. At least not until I knew more, not until I knew he was really, truly safe. I reached out and gently brushed his wet hair back from his face. He looked so small, so vulnerable, so completely and utterly innocent. "I don't know who you are or where you came from," I whispered, "but I promise I'm going to keep you safe, no matter what." That was 3 days ago. For 3 days the boy stayed in my guest room, barely moving, barely eating. I brought him soup and water and sat with him for hours, talking softly about nothing in particular, just trying to let him know he wasn't alone. Slowly he started to get better. The bruises faded from purple to yellow. The cuts healed faster than they should have, closing up and leaving barely a scar. His color came back, turning from deathly pale to a healthy pink. And yesterday he finally spoke. I was sitting in the chair beside his bed, reading a book out loud, when I heard the smallest, quietest voice say, "Thank you." I nearly dropped the book. "You're awake." He nodded, his silver eyes watching me carefully. The wolf ears on his head flattened against his skull, like he was nervous. "How are you feeling?" I asked, setting the book aside and leaning forward. "Better," he whispered. His voice was so soft I had to strain to hear it. You saved me." My heart squeezed. "What's your name, sweetie?" He hesitated like he wasn't sure if he should tell me. Then, "Leo." "Leo, that's a strong name." I smiled at him. "I'm Emma, you're safe here, Leo, nobody is going to hurt you." His eyes filled with tears. "They will, they'll come for me, they always do." "Who?" I asked gently. "Who's looking for you?" But he just shook his head and pulled the blankets up higher, like he could hide from the whole world under them. I didn't push. Whatever he'd been through, it was bad enough that he'd ended up bleeding on a road in the middle of nowhere. He would tell me when he was ready. I spent the rest of the day making him feel comfortable. I made his favorite foods after asking what he liked. Chicken soup, grilled cheese sandwiches, hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. He ate slowly, like he wasn't used to having enough food, and every time I brought him something new his eyes would light up with surprise and happiness. It made me want to find whoever had hurt him and make them pay. That night he fell asleep early, curled up in a little ball under the covers. I sat with him until his breathing was deep, and then carefully got up and went to my own room. I thought about calling someone again, my sister maybe, or my best friend Claire, but what would I say? How could I explain this without sounding completely insane? In the end I decided to wait, just a little longer, just until Leo was stronger and could tell me what he needed. I fell asleep thinking I'd made the right choice. I woke up to the sound of howling. At first I thought I was dreaming, but then I heard it again, louder this time. Multiple voices, all joining together in a chorus that made every hair on my body stand on end. I threw back the covers and ran to the window. The moon was full and bright, turning everything outside silver and black. And there at the edge of my property where the forest began, I saw them. Wolves, dozens of them, big ones with glowing eyes and teeth that gleamed in the moonlight. And standing in front of them in human form was the most terrifying man I'd ever seen. He was tall, so tall he made the trees behind him look small. His shoulders were broad, his chest was wide, and every inch of him was pure muscle. He had long dark hair that fell past his shoulders and a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. Sharp jaw, high cheekbones, full lips pulled into a snarl. But it was his eyes that made me freeze. They were gold, bright burning gold that seemed to glow with their own light. Alpha eyes. I knew in that moment exactly who he was. This was Leo's father, the leader of whatever pack the boy had run from. And he'd found us. I heard a small gasp behind me and turned to see Leo standing in my bedroom doorway, his face white with terror. "He's here," Leo whispered. "Papa's here. He's going to kill you. He's going to kill both of us." Before I could respond, there was a knock on my front door, not a polite knock, a heavy, demanding knock that shook the whole house. I looked at Leo, then at the door, then back at Leo. "Hide," I told him, "under my bed, right now. Don't come out no matter what you hear." But now's Leo. He ran and slid under the bed just as another knock came, harder this time. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders and went downstairs. My hands were shaking as I reached for the door handle. Every instinct I had was screaming at me not to open it, to run, to hide, to do anything except face whatever was on the other side. But I'd made Leo a promise. I'd told him he was safe. And I wasn't going to break that promise. I opened the door. The Alpha stood on my porch, even bigger up close than he'd looked from the window. He was wearing dark clothes that looked expensive, and his presence was so overwhelming I actually took a step back without meaning to. Behind him, the wolves had formed a semicircle around my house, all of them watching, all of them waiting. "You have something that belongs to us," the Alpha said, his voice so deep and powerful it seemed to come from the earth itself. I gripped the door frame to steady myself. "I don't know what you're talking about." His gold eyes narrowed. "Don't lie to me, human. I can smell my son all over this house. I can hear his heartbeat. He's here." My mouth went dry. Of course he could. He was a werewolf, an alpha, probably the most powerful creature for 100 miles. And I was just a human, small, weak, completely helpless against him. But I'd made a promise. "I don't know what you're talking about," I repeated, stronger this time. The Alpha's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. Something dark and dangerous. "My son ran away 3 days ago," he said, each word carefully controlled. "He was injured, scared, and apparently he found his way to you." "I told you I don't." "Enough." The roar was so loud, so powerful, that every window in my house rattled. Birds exploded from the trees around us, fleeing into the night. Several of the wolves behind him whimpered and backed up. I pressed myself against the door frame, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. The Alpha took a step forward, and suddenly he was close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off his body. Close enough that I could see the barely controlled rage in his eyes. "I don't have time for games, human. My son is the heir to the Silver Moon Pack. He is precious, he is protected, and he is coming home with me tonight." "No." The word came out before I could stop it, small and quiet but firm. The Alpha froze. For a long moment he just stared at me like he couldn't quite believe what he'd heard. Then slowly, his lips pulled back into a snarl that showed all of his very sharp, very white teeth. "What did you just say to me?" I was terrified, more scared than I'd ever been in my entire life. But somewhere upstairs, a little boy was hiding under my bed, counting on me to protect him. I lifted my chin and looked the Alpha straight in those burning gold eyes. I said, "No, he's not going anywhere with you." For 3 heartbeats, nobody moved. The Alpha stared at me like I'd just grown a second head. Behind him, the wolves started making noises. Low growls, confused whimpers. One of them, a huge grey wolf, actually sat down like his legs had given out from shock. I guess humans didn't usually tell alphas no. Then the alpha laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh that meant someone was about to die, and that someone was probably me. You have no idea what you just did, he said, his voice dropping even lower. No idea what you're risking, what you're about to lose. I know exactly what I'm doing, I lied, because my knees were shaking so hard I thought I might collapse. That little boy upstairs is covered in bruises. He has cuts and scars all over his body. He was bleeding on the side of the road when I found him. So no, I'm not giving him back to whoever did that to him. Something flickered across the alpha's face. Something that might have been pain or anger or maybe both. You think I hurt my own son? I don't know what to think, all I know is he's terrified, and he's staying here where he's safe. The alpha's hands curled into fists. His knuckles cracked. For a second I saw claws starting to push through his fingertips, sharp and black and deadly. He ran away, the alpha said through gritted teeth. He got scared during a training exercise and he ran, into the forbidden part of the forest, where the rogues live. My stomach dropped. Rogues. Werewolves without a pack, without rules, without mercy. His gold eyes burned into mine. They're the ones who hurt him. They attacked him because he was alone, because he was weak, because he smelled like Silver Moon Pack, and they hate us. Oh no. Oh no. I've been searching for him for 3 days, the alpha continued, his voice rough with emotion he was barely holding back. 3 days of thinking my son was dead. 3 days of following his scent through the forest, finding his blood on the trees, thinking I was going to find his body torn apart. I felt my face go hot with shame. I'd assumed. I'd jumped to conclusions. I'd thought the worst. I didn't know, I whispered. Of course you didn't know, you're human, you don't understand pack law, you don't understand what it means when an heir goes missing. He took another step forward, and now he was so close I had to tilt my head back to look at him. But you're going to understand this. My son belongs to me. He belongs to the Silver Moon Pack, and you're going to give him back. Right now. Part of me wanted to do exactly that. To apologize, to bring Leo downstairs, to let this terrifying alpha take his son home. But then I remembered Leo's face when he'd seen his father. The pure terror in his silver eyes, the way he'd whispered, he's going to kill us. If the alpha really loved his son, if he really wanted him safe, why was Leo so afraid? No, I said again, quieter this time but just as firm. Not until I talk to him, not until he tells me himself that he wants to go with you. The alpha's eyes flashed dangerously. You're making a mistake, human. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. For a long moment we just stood there staring at each other. Me, small and human and completely out of my depth. Him, powerful and ancient and barely holding back his wolf. Then he smiled, and it was the scariest thing I'd ever seen. Fine, he said softly. You want to play protector, let's see how long you last. He turned and walked back to his pack. They parted for him like water, their heads bowing in submission as he passed. When he reached the edge of my property, he stopped and looked back at me over his shoulder. You have until sunrise, he called out. Talk to my son, convince yourself that he's safe with me, but when the sun comes up I'm coming back, and if you still refuse to give him to me. He paused and his eyes glowed brighter. Then I'll take him by force, and I'll burn everything you love to the ground. Then he shifted. 1 second he was a man, tall and terrifying and beautiful in a dangerous way. The next second he was a wolf, not just any wolf, the biggest wolf I'd ever seen, even in pictures. He was pure silver with that same dark mane running down his back and those gold eyes burning in the moonlight. He threw back his head and howled, long and loud and full of fury. The other wolves joined in, their voices rising into the night sky like a promise of violence. Then they were gone, melting back into the forest like shadows, until I was alone on my porch with the sound of my own racing heartbeat. My legs finally gave out. I sat down hard on the steps, my whole body shaking. What had I done? I'd just threatened an alpha werewolf. I'd told him no. I'd basically challenged him in front of his entire pack. I was so stupid, so stupid. Zemma. I looked up to see Leo standing in the doorway. His little face was pale, his silver eyes huge and frightened. Those wolf ears were flat against his head. Did he leave? Leo asked in a tiny voice. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Leo walked out onto the porch and sat down next to me. For a minute, we just sat there together, looking out at the forest where the wolves had disappeared. You shouldn't have done that, Leo said finally. Papa doesn't like it when people tell him no. What happens when people tell him no? I asked. Leo was quiet for a long time, then bad things. My heart sank. Leo, your father said you got hurt by rogues, is that true? He nodded slowly. I ran away during training. I got scared and I ran into the wrong part of the forest. The rogues found me. He touched his side where the deep gash had been. They hurt me really bad. Why did you run away from training? His little hands twisted together in his lap. Because I'm not strong enough. Papa says I have to be strong, that I have to be brave, that one day I'm going to be alpha and I can't be weak. You're 6 years old, I said gently. You're supposed to be a kid, not a warrior. Papa says being alpha means you're never just a kid. Leo's voice got even quieter. He says I have to be better, faster, stronger, because everyone is watching me. Everyone is waiting for me to fail. My chest ached, this poor little boy, so much pressure on such small shoulders. Is that why you didn't want to go back, because you're afraid you'll fail? Leo shook his head. I'm afraid of what Papa will do if I fail again. The training. It's really hard, Emma, and when I can't do something, when I mess up, Papa gets so angry. His eyes get really bright and his voice gets really loud and all the other wolves start whispering about how weak I am. Has he ever hurt you? I asked, even though I was terrified of the answer. No, Leo said immediately. Papa has never hit me. Never, but he makes me do things, hard things, scary things, and he doesn't stop until I get it right, even if I'm crying or bleeding or begging him to stop. I felt sick. This wasn't physical abuse, but it was abuse all the same. Pushing a child beyond their limits, making them feel like love was conditional on strength. Leo, do you want to go back? He looked up at me with those big silver eyes, and I saw the truth there before he even spoke. I don't know, he whispered. Papa is my family, the pack is my family, but I'm so tired, Emma, I'm so tired of being scared all the time. I put my arm around his small shoulders and pulled him close. He leaned into me, and I felt him shaking. Then you don't have to decide right now, I told him. Your father gave us until sunrise, that's hours away. Why don't we go inside, have some hot chocolate and talk about what you really want? Leo nodded against my shoulder. We went inside and I locked the door behind us, even though I knew it wouldn't keep out a determined werewolf. Then I made hot chocolate with extra marshmallows while Leo sat at my kitchen table, his legs swinging back and forth. I gave him his mug and sat down across from him. Tell me about your pack, I said. What's it like? Leo's face brightened a little. It's big, really big. There are hundreds of wolves in the Silver Moon pack. We live in a huge territory in the forest with lots of houses and training grounds and meeting halls. Do you have friends? Sort of the other kids. They're nice to me because I'm the heir, but I don't know if they really like me or if they're just scared of Papa. My heart broke a little more. What about your mother? Is she around? Leo's face fell. Mama died when I was born. Papa says I look just like her. He says that's why it hurts him to look at me sometimes. Oh no. Suddenly, so much made sense. The alpha wasn't just pushing his son to be strong. He was looking at a child who reminded him every single day of the mate he'd lost. The pain of that must be unbearable. But that didn't make it right. That didn't make it okay to put all that pressure on a 6-year-old's shoulders. Leo, if you could have anything you wanted, what would it be? He thought about it for a long time, stirring his hot chocolate with a spoon and watching the marshmallows spin around. I want Papa to be happy again, he said finally. I want him to smile like he does in the old pictures. I want him to tell me he's proud of me not because I did something strong, but just because I'm his son. Tears pricked at my eyes. That's a beautiful wish. But it's never going to happen, Leo said matter-of-factly. Because I'm not strong enough, I'm not good enough, I'm never going to be the alpha he wants me to be. Hey, I reached across the table and took his small hand in mine. You listen to me, Leo, you are good enough. You're smart and brave and kind, and those things matter just as much as being strong. Maybe even more. Papa doesn't think so. Then maybe Papa needs to learn. Leo looked at me with wide eyes. You're going to try to change his mind. I don't know if I can, I admitted. But I'm going to try. Because you deserve better than this, Leo. You deserve to be a kid. You deserve to be loved for who you are, not who everyone expects you to be. A tear rolled down Leo's cheek, then another. Then he was crying, really crying, in a way that made me think he'd been holding it in for a very long time. I came around the table and pulled him into my arms, holding him while he sobbed into my shoulder. "I just want to be enough," he cried. "I just want Papa to love me." "He does love you," I said softly. "I saw it in his eyes, Leo. When he was talking about searching for you, about thinking you were dead, he was devastated. He loves you so much it's breaking him apart." "Then why does it feel like he hates me?" "Because sometimes people don't know how to show love when they're hurting. They get scared and angry and they push too hard. But that doesn't mean the love isn't there." Leo pulled back and wiped his eyes with his sleeve. "Do you really think so?" "I know so." He gave me a small, watery smile. "Will you come with me when I go back?" My stomach clenched. "Leo, I'm human, I can't go to the Pack lands. Your father barely tolerates me standing on my own property." "But you promised to keep me safe," Leo said, his voice getting panicky. "You promised, Emma, and I don't feel safe without you." I looked at this little boy, this sweet, scared, hurting child, and knew I couldn't let him down. "Okay," I heard myself say. "Okay, I'll come with you, I'll talk to your father, I'll make sure you're safe." Leo threw his arms around my neck. "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you." I hugged him back, wondering what on earth I'd just agreed to. The rest of the night passed in a strange kind of blur. I put Leo to bed and then spent hours packing my living room, trying to figure out what I was going to say to an alpha werewolf who could probably kill me with one hand. As the sky started to lighten, turning from black to dark blue to pale pink, I heard them. Footsteps on my porch, lots of them. I went to the window and looked out. The wolves were back, all of them, standing in formation around my house like an army waiting for orders. And at the front, human again, was the alpha. He was wearing different clothes now, black pants and a black shirt that showed off every impossible muscle. His long dark hair was pulled back from his face, and his gold eyes were locked on my front door like he could see right through it. I took a deep breath, whispered a prayer to whoever might be listening, and opened the door. The alpha's eyes snapped to me immediately. "Sunrise," he said, "time's up." "I know," my voice only shook a little. "Leo wants to come home." Something shifted in the alpha's expression. Relief, joy, hope. It was gone in a second, replaced by his usual stern mask, but I'd seen it. "Good," he said, "get him. On one condition." The alpha's eyes narrowed dangerously. "You're in no position to make conditions, human." "Maybe not, but I'm making one anyway." I straightened my spine and tried to look braver than I felt. "I'm coming with you. I'm going to stay with Leo in Pack lands until I'm absolutely sure he's safe and happy. And if I see any sign that he's being hurt or pushed too hard, I'm taking him out of there. I don't care what your laws say." Dead silence. Every wolf was staring at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. The alpha took a step forward, then another until he was standing right in front of me, so close I had to tilt my head all the way back to see his face. "You want to challenge me?" he asked softly. "You, a human, want to come into my territory, question my authority, and threaten to take my son away from me?" "Yes," I whispered, even though every cell in my body was screaming at me to run. He stared down at me for what felt like forever. I could see the gold in his eyes swirling, could feel the power radiating off him in waves. Then impossibly he smiled. A real smile this time, not the scary one from before. "You're either the bravest human I've ever met," he said, "or the most foolish." "Probably both." He laughed. It was a short, sharp sound, but it was real. "Fine," he said. "You can come, you can stay. You can watch over my son like a mother hen if that's what you need to do." His smile disappeared. "But if you interfere with Pack business, if you undermine my authority, or if you try to turn my son against me," he leaned down until his face was inches from mine, "then I will make you regret the day you were born. Understood?" I swallowed hard. Understood. "Good," he straightened up and turned to the other wolves. "Spread the word. We're bringing home the heir, and we have a human guest." The wolves all bowed their heads in acknowledgement. Some of them looked curious, some looked amused, a few looked downright hostile. I had a feeling this was going to be the longest visit of my life. "Zemma." I looked up to see Leo standing in the doorway, his little backpack on his shoulders. I'd packed it last night with his favorite things, the stuffed bear I'd given him, some books, a picture he'd drawn of the two of us. I'm ready, he said quietly. The Alpha turned, and when he saw his son, his entire face transformed. All the hardness melted away. All the anger disappeared. He looked like a man who'd been given back something precious that he'd thought was lost forever. Leo, he breathed. Hi, Papa. The Alpha crossed the porch in 2 long strides, dropped to his knees and pulled his son into his arms. He buried his face in Leo's hair, and I saw his shoulders shaking. I thought I'd lost you, the Alpha whispered, his voice cracking. I thought you were gone. I'm sorry, Papa, Leo said, his own voice thick with tears. I'm sorry I ran away. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough. The Alpha pulled back and cupped his son's face in his big hands. No, you listened to me. You survived rogues. You survived 3 days alone in the forest. You found help when you needed it. You were strong enough, Leo. You were more than strong enough. Leo's eyes filled with tears. Really? Really? The Alpha pressed his forehead against his son's. I'm sorry if I ever made you think otherwise. I'm sorry if I pushed too hard. I was just so scared of losing you, of not preparing you for the dangers out there. But I forgot that you're still just a cub, my cub. They stayed like that for a long moment, father and son, Alpha and heir, just holding each other. I felt tears running down my own face. This was what Leo needed, this gentleness, this love. Finally, the Alpha stood up, scooping Leo into his arms like he weighed nothing. He looked at me over his son's head. Thank you, he said quietly, for saving him, for protecting him, for caring when you had no reason to. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Are you sure you want to do this? He asked. Come to Pack Lands, it's not going to be easy for you. Humans aren't exactly welcome in our world. I promised Leo I'd keep him safe, I said. I keep my promises. Something flickered in the Alpha's eyes. Respect, maybe, or approval. Then let's go, he said. The pack is waiting. He turned and walked off the porch, carrying his son. The other wolves fell into formation around him, a moving wall of muscle and fur and sharp teeth. I stood there for a second, looking at my little house, my safe, normal, boring life. Then I took a deep breath, locked the door behind me and followed a pack of werewolves into the forest. Toward a life that would never be normal again. The walk to Pack Lands took about an hour. The wolves moved fast, much faster than any human should be able to go, but they adjusted their pace for me. The Alpha stayed at the front, still carrying Leo, while 2 huge wolves flanked me on either side like guards, or maybe like prison escorts. I wasn't sure which. The forest got thicker and darker the deeper we went. The trees here were ancient, their trunks so wide it would take 5 people holding hands to wrap around them. The air smelled like pine and earth and something wild that made my instincts scream danger. Finally, we emerged into a clearing and I stopped dead. It wasn't just a clearing, it was a whole village. No, bigger than a village. A small city hidden in the heart of the forest. There were buildings everywhere. Some looked modern, made of wood and glass. Others were older, built from stone and covered in vines. There were training grounds where wolves in human form were practicing combat. There were gardens where women were tending to plants. There were children running and playing, their laughter echoing through the trees. And in the center of it all was a massive building that could only be described as a palace. It was made of dark stone that seemed to absorb the light, with tall towers and wide windows, and a huge set of double doors. Welcome, the Alpha said, his voice carrying across the clearing, to Silver Moon Pack Lands. Every wolf in sight stopped what they were doing and turned to look at us. Then, as one, they all dropped to one knee and bowed their heads. The Alpha walked forward, and the crowd parted for him. I followed close behind, very aware that hundreds of pairs of eyes were watching my every move. We walked up the steps to the palace, and the huge doors swung open without anyone touching them. Inside was even more impressive. High ceilings, beautiful tapestries, weapons mounted on the walls, a massive throne at the far end made of twisted tree roots and silver metal. The Alpha set Leo down gently and turned to face me. This is your last chance to back out, he said quietly. Once you enter these halls as my guest, you're under pack law. My lord, do you understand? I looked at Leo, who was watching me with hopeful silver eyes. Then I looked back at the Alpha and lifted my chin. I understand. He studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. Very well, then let me make this official. He raised his voice so everyone in the hall could hear. This human saved my son's life. She protected him when she had no reason to. She challenged me when any reasonable person would have run. his gold eyes locked on mine. She has earned my respect, and so I declare her a protected guest of the Silver Moon Pack. Anyone who harms her answers to me. A murmur went through the crowd of wolves that had followed us inside. She will stay in the West Wing, the Alpha continued. She will have access to our grounds, and she will be treated with the courtesy due to any honored guest. He paused. Is that clear? Yes, Alpha, came the response from dozens of voices. The Alpha turned back to me. A room will be prepared for you. Food will be brought. If you need anything, tell one of the guards and they'll see to it. Thank you, I managed. Don't thank me yet, he said darkly. You'll earn that stay, I guarantee it. Then he took Leo's hand and walked away, leaving me standing in the middle of a palace full of werewolves who looked like they weren't sure whether to be curious about me or eat me. A young woman with red hair and kind eyes approached me. Hi, she said softly. I'm Sarah, I'll show you to your room. Thank you, I said, grateful for a friendly face. As we walked through the halls, Sarah leaned in close. You're either very brave or very crazy, she whispered. Nobody talks to the Alpha like that, nobody challenges him, and nobody ever threatens to take away his son. Yeah, I'm starting to realize that. Sarah smiled. I like you, most humans would have run screaming by now, but you're still here. I made a promise. To Leo. To Leo, I confirmed. Sarah's smile widened. Then maybe you'll survive after all. Welcome to Silver Moon, Emma. Your life just got a whole lot more interesting. She wasn't wrong. Because behind us, watching from the shadows, was a woman with ice blue eyes and a smile like a knife. A woman who just watched a human walk into Pack lands and earn the Alpha's protection. A woman who had plans of her own for the Alpha's attention. And she did not look happy about the competition. My room was beautiful. I don't know what I expected. Maybe a dungeon, maybe a cage, maybe just a corner somewhere with a blanket on the floor. But this was a real bedroom, a huge bedroom, bigger than my entire house actually. The bed was massive, with soft white sheets and more pillows than any one person could possibly need. There were thick rugs on the stone floor and tapestries on the walls showing wolves running under the moon. A fireplace took up one whole wall, already lit and crackling with warm flames. Tall windows looked out over the forest, and I could see mountains in the distance, their peaks covered in snow. The Alpha wanted you to be comfortable, Sarah said, setting my small bag on a chair. The bathroom is through that door. There's a closet full of clothes that should fit you, and if you need anything, just pull that rope by the door and someone will come. I turned to look at her. Why are you all being so nice to me? I thought humans weren't welcome here. Sarah's smile faded a little. We're not usually humans and werewolves. We don't mix well, too much history, too much blood. She walked to the window and looked out. But you saved Leo, that matters. The heir is precious to all of us, not just the Alpha. When he went missing, the whole pack was searching. Nobody slept, nobody ate. We just looked and prayed we'd find him alive. I'm glad I could help, I said softly. Me too, Sarah turned back to me. But I need to warn you about something. Not everyone is happy you're here. There are wolves who think humans are weak, dangerous, a threat to pack security. And there are some who are jealous. Jealous of what? Sarah hesitated. Of the attention the Alpha is giving you. He's never brought a human here before, never shown interest in anyone since his mate died. Some people are going to see you as a threat. My eyes went wide. Wait, no, it's not like that. I'm not interested in the Alpha, I'm just here for Leo. I know that, you know that, but the pack doesn't know that yet. They're going to watch you, judge you, test you, so be careful, okay? Keep your head down, don't make waves. And whatever you do, don't get between the Alpha and his responsibilities. What kind of responsibilities? Sarah bit her lip like she was deciding how much to tell me. The Alpha has been different since his mate died. Colder, harder. He pushes himself and everyone around him to be stronger, better, perfect, including Leo. But there's been pressure on him to take a chosen mate, someone strong who can stand beside him and help lead the pack. A chosen mate, I asked. What's that? When your true mate dies, you can choose another. It's not the same as the bond you're born with, but it's still powerful, still binding. And the pack elders have been pushing the Alpha to choose someone for years now. Sarah's voice dropped lower. There's a woman, Victoria, she's the beater's daughter. Strong, beautiful, ruthless. She's been trying to catch the Alpha's attention since his mate died. And she's not going to be happy that you're here taking up his time and focus. A chill ran down my spine. I'll stay out of her way. Good, because Victoria doesn't play nice with people she sees as competition. Sarah walked to the door, then paused. Get some rest, Emma. Tonight there's a pack gathering to celebrate Leo's return. You'll be expected to attend. What happens at a pack gathering? Sarah smiled, but it wasn't exactly a happy smile. You'll see. Then she left, and I was alone in this huge, beautiful room in the middle of a werewolf palace. I sat down on the edge of the bed and put my head in my hands. What had I gotten myself into? I should have just given Leo back, should have let the Alpha take his son and gone back to my quiet, normal life. But no, I'd had to be brave, had to be noble, had to promise to protect a child who probably didn't even need my protection. And now I was stuck here, surrounded by creatures who could kill me without even trying, in a world I didn't understand, with a warning about some woman named Victoria who apparently saw me as a threat. This was fine, everything was fine. I took a shower because I figured if I was going to die at a pack gathering, I might as well be clean. The bathroom was even more impressive than the bedroom. There was a huge tub that could fit 5 people, a shower with water that came from every direction, and soaps that smelled like pine and honey. When I came out, there were clothes laid out on the bed that definitely hadn't been there before. Someone had come in while I was showering, which was creepy but also kind of impressive. The outfit was simple but elegant. Dark pants that fit perfectly, a soft cream-colored shirt, and a thick jacket lined with fur. There were even boots that looked like they were made for walking through the forest. Everything fit like it had been made just for me, which was impossible unless werewolves had magic powers I didn't know about. I got dressed and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked different, not quite like me but not quite like someone else either, like I was caught between 2 worlds. There was a knock on my door. Come in, I called. The door opened and Leo peeked his head in. He'd been cleaned up too. His hair was washed and combed and he was wearing nice clothes. The bruises on his face had faded to almost nothing and the cuts were completely gone. Werewolf healing was apparently very fast. Hi, he said shyly. Hi, sweetheart, how are you feeling? He came all the way in and closed the door behind him. Okay, I guess. Papa wants me to rest, but I'm not tired. I wanted to see you. I smiled and held out my arms. He ran to me and I hugged him tight. Are you scared? He asked, his voice muffled against my shoulder. A little, I admitted. This is all very new to me. Me too, I haven't been to a pack gathering in a long time. Papa usually makes me stay in my room because he says I'm too young. Leo pulled back and looked at me with worried eyes. But tonight he says I have to come because it's about me. Then we'll go together, I told him. And if it gets too scary or too loud, you just hold my hand and we'll get through it. Okay. Leo nodded and gave me a small smile. Okay. Leo, a deep voice boomed from somewhere in the hallway. It's time. Leo's smile disappeared. His little body went stiff and those wolf ears flattened against his head. The Alpha appeared in the doorway a second later. He changed clothes too. Now he was wearing black pants and a black shirt with silver embroidery that caught the light. His long dark hair was loose around his shoulders, and his gold eyes were bright. He looked like a king, powerful and dangerous and absolutely in control. Come, he said to Leo, the pack is waiting. Leo let go of me and walked toward his father, his steps slow and reluctant. The Alpha frowned. You're not happy to celebrate with the pack? I don't like everyone staring at me, Leo said quietly. Something softened in the Alpha's expression. I know, but you're the heir, they need to see you, they need to know you're safe and strong. But I'm not strong, Papa, I got hurt, I ran away, I failed. The Alpha knelt down so he was eye level with his son. You survived, that's not failure, that's strength. He reached out and touched Leo's cheek gently. I'm proud of you, Leo. Leo's eyes went wide. Really? Really? The Alpha stood and held out his hand. Now come, let's show the pack what Silver Moon's heir is made of. Leo took his father's hand, and they both looked at me. You too, human, the Alpha said. You're part of this whether you like it or not. I followed them out of the room and through the winding hallways of the palace. We passed dozens of wolves, all of them bowing their heads as the Alpha walked by. Some of them looked at me with curiosity, some with suspicion, and a few with outright hostility. We emerged into a huge courtyard behind the palace. It was already full of wolves. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all gathered in a massive circle. There were torches everywhere, making the whole space glow with flickering orange light. In the center was a raised platform made of stone. The moment we appeared, every single wolf turned to look at us. The alpha walked forward, still holding Leo's hand, and I followed close behind. The crowd parted for us like the sea, everyone bowing as we passed. We climbed up onto the platform, and suddenly I could see the whole gathering. Wolves of every age, every size, every color, all of them watching us with bright, glowing eyes. The alpha raised his hand, and instant silence fell. 3 days ago, he said, his voice carrying across the entire courtyard without him even having to shout, my son disappeared. The heir to Silver Moon pack was lost. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. For 3 days we searched, for 3 days we feared the worst. The alpha's hand tightened on Leo's shoulder. But tonight I stand before you with my son returned, injured but alive, frightened but brave, and we have one person to thank for that. He turned and gestured to me. Oh no. Every eye in the courtyard locked on me. Thousands of glowing eyes, all staring, all judging. This human found my son on the side of the road, the alpha continued. She could have ignored him, could have been afraid, could have called human authorities and created problems for all of us, but she didn't. She took him in. She healed him, she protected him. And when I came to take him back, she stood up to me. She challenged an alpha to ensure my son's safety. More murmurs louder this time. Some sounded impressed, others sounded angry. Because of her courage, Leo is home. Because of her kindness, the heir lives. And so I declare Emma Clark to be under the protection of Silver Moon Pack. She is our honored guest, and anyone who harms her will answer to me personally. He looked directly at me then, his gold eyes intense. Do you accept this protection, Emma Clark? My mouth was dry, my heart was pounding. Every instinct told me to say no, to run, to get out of here while I still could. But Leo was looking at me too, his silver eyes hopeful and scared. I accept, I heard myself say. The alpha nodded. Then it is done. He turned back to the crowd. Tonight we celebrate, the heir has returned. Let there be food, music, and gratitude to the moon that brought him home. The crowd erupted into howls and cheers. Wolves shifted forms, some going full wolf, some staying human, some caught in between. Music started playing from somewhere, drums and flutes and voices all blending together in a wild, primal song. The alpha stepped down from the platform, bringing Leo with him. I started to follow, but a hand grabbed my arm. I turned to see a woman standing there. She was tall, almost as tall as the alpha, with long black hair and ice blue eyes. She was beautiful in a sharp, dangerous way, like a knife made of glass. So you're the human, she said, her voice cold. The one who thinks she can just walk into our world and play hero. I'm not playing anything, I said, trying to pull my arm free. Her grip was like iron. I'm just here for Leo. Of course you are, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Let me give you some advice, human. The alpha may have declared you protected, but that doesn't mean you're safe. Pack law is complicated. There are rules, traditions, challenges, and there are many here who would love to see you fail. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. She leaned in closer, and I caught the scent of something wild and dangerous. Stay away from the alpha. He has responsibilities, duties, and a future mate waiting for him. He doesn't need a weak human distracting him. Victoria, the alpha's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Let her go. Victoria released my arm immediately and turned to face him, her expression shifting into something soft and sweet. Alpha Kieran. I was just welcoming our guest. So that was his name, Kieran. Didn't look like a welcome, Kieran said coldly. Looked like an interrogation. I apologize if I gave that impression. Victoria bowed her head, but her eyes stayed on me. I only wanted to make sure she understood how things work here. She'll learn. Kieran stepped between us, blocking Victoria's view of me. Now go, make yourself useful somewhere else. For a second I thought Victoria might argue. Her blue eyes flashed with anger, and I saw her hands curl into fists. But then she bowed again, deeper this time. Of course, Alpha, as you wish. She walked away, but not before shooting me one last look over her shoulder. A look that promised this wasn't over. Kieran turned to me. Are you all right? Fine, I lied. Who was that? Victoria, the beater's daughter. He paused like he was choosing his words carefully. She has ambitions. So I heard. Sarah told me she wants to be your chosen mate. Something flickered across Kieran's face. Annoyance maybe, or exhaustion. Sarah talks too much. Is it true? That's not your concern. It is if she's going to harass me every time she sees me. Kieran's jaw tightened. She won't, I'll make sure of it. How? By having me followed everywhere, by assigning guards to watch me like I'm a prisoner. If that's what it takes to keep you safe, yes. I stared up at him, this massive, powerful alpha who'd declared me under his protection without even asking if I wanted it. I don't need a bodyguard. You're human in a werewolf pack, you absolutely need a bodyguard. He crossed his arms over his chest. You have no idea how dangerous this world is, how quickly things can turn violent, how many wolves here would love nothing more than to prove humans don't belong. Then maybe I should leave. You can't. Why not? Because Leo needs you. The words came out harsh, almost angry. He's sleeping better, eating better, he smiles when you're around. I haven't seen him smile like that since. He stopped looking away. Since his mother died. My anger deflated like a balloon. Kieran. Don't, he held up a hand. Don't pity me, I don't need it, I don't want it. What I need is for my son to be happy and healthy, and if having you here does that, then you're staying, whether you like it or not. Before I could respond, Leo came running up, his face flushed with excitement. Emma, come dance. They're teaching me the moon dance and I want you to learn it too. I looked at Kieran, who just shrugged. Go, enjoy the celebration, but stay where I can see you. Why? So you can make sure nobody eats me. The corner of his mouth twitched. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. Something like that. Leo grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the center of the courtyard where dozens of wolves were dancing in a circle, their movements synchronized and graceful. Sarah was there too, and she waved at me. Come on, she called. It's easy once you get the rhythm. I let Leo pull me into the circle. The wolves made room for us, some looking amused, others looking skeptical that a human could possibly learn one of their dances. But I tried. I watched their feet, copied their movements, and did my best not to trip over my own legs. Leo laughed every time I messed up, but it was a happy laugh, not a mean one. And slowly, step by step, I started to get it. The music pounded through my body. The firelight flickered across faces, both human and wolf. The night air was cold, but I was warm from dancing, and for just a moment I forgot to be scared. For just a moment I felt like I belonged. I was so caught up in the dance that I didn't notice Victoria standing at the edge of the circle, watching me with those ice-blue eyes. Didn't notice the way her hands clenched when Kieran stepped closer to watch. Didn't notice the darkness in her expression, or the whispered conversation she had with two large male wolves who looked like they'd enjoy tearing something apart. But I would notice soon enough. Because Victoria had made her decision. The human had to go. And she knew exactly how to make that happen. Hey, beautiful souls, if you're loving this story of Emma and Alpha Kieran, please don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. This story is about to get even more intense, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Drop a comment below telling me your favorite moment so far, and whether you think Emma and Kieran are meant to be together. Your support means everything to me. Now, let's continue this wild journey together. The celebration went on for hours. There was food everywhere. Roasted meat, fresh bread, fruits and vegetables I'd never seen before, and drinks that tasted like honey and fire. The wolves ate with their hands, laughing and talking and telling stories about Leo's birth, about his mother, about the old days when the pack was smaller and life was simpler. Leo stayed close to me the whole time, his little hand gripping mine like I was his anchor. Every so often, Kieran would appear, checking on us, making sure we had everything we needed. He never stayed long, always pulled away by some pack member who needed his attention or had a problem that required the alpha's judgment. I watched him work, watched the way every wolf deferred to him, the way his word was law, the way even the biggest, scariest wolves bowed their heads when he spoke. He was more than just a leader. He was like a god to these people. And he carried that weight on his shoulders like it was crushing him. Papa works too hard, Leo said quietly, following my gaze. He has a lot of responsibilities, I replied. He never rests, never stops. Even when he's sleeping, I can hear him packing in his room. Leo's voice got sadder. I think he's lonely. My heart squeezed. What about you? Are you lonely? Leo looked up at me with those big silver eyes. Not anymore, not since you came. I pulled him close and kissed the top of his head, right between his wolf ears. I'm glad I'm here too, sweetheart. The music changed then, becoming slower, deeper. The wolves started pairing off, moving together in what looked like a traditional dance. Mates with mates, parents with children, friends with friends. Sarah appeared beside us, slightly breathless from dancing. That's the Luna's dance, she explained. It's meant to honor the alpha's mate and celebrate the bond between partners. Luna, I asked. It means the alpha's mate, the female leader of the pack. When Kieran's mate was alive, she was our Luna, she was. Sarah's expression became wistful. She was amazing, kind, strong, beautiful, everyone loved her. When she died giving birth to Leo, it broke something in the pack, in Kieran most of all. I watched as couples moved together, their steps perfectly synchronized. It was beautiful and sad at the same time. Then I noticed Victoria. She was walking toward Kieran with a determined look on her face. She was wearing a dress now, something dark and elegant that hugged every curve. Her black hair flowed down her back like a waterfall, and her blue eyes were locked on the alpha like he was prey. She reached him and said something I couldn't hear, then she held out her hand. The entire courtyard went quiet. Kieran stared at her hand like it was a snake. For a long moment he didn't move, didn't speak. Victoria smiled wider. Come now, Alpha, it's tradition. The beater's daughter should dance with the pack leader at the Luna's dance. Everyone is watching. And they were. Every single wolf had stopped what they were doing to watch this moment. To see if their Alpha would accept Victoria's invitation. To see if he would choose her. Kieran's jaw clenched, then slowly he took her hand. A cheer went up from the crowd. Victoria's smile turned triumphant as she pulled Kieran onto the dance floor. They moved together, Victoria pressing close, her body against his, her hands on his shoulders. She was saying something to him, her lips near his ear. Whatever it was made his expression darken. Papa doesn't look happy, Leah whispered. He was right, Kieran looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. But he kept dancing, kept moving, because apparently tradition demanded it. Victoria's hands slid from his shoulders to his chest. She tilted her head back, exposing her throat in what I now understood was a sign of submission in wolf culture. But there was nothing submissive about the way she was looking at him. She looked like she'd already won. Something hot and uncomfortable twisted in my stomach. I didn't like watching this. Didn't like seeing Victoria touch Kieran, didn't like the possessive way she held onto him, didn't like the smug expression on her face. But I had no right to feel that way. Kieran wasn't mine. He was an alpha, a werewolf, a creature from a world I'd stumbled into by accident. What he did with his life, who he chose as a mate, was none of my business. She's not good enough for him, Sarah said quietly beside me. I jumped, I'd forgotten she was there. What do you mean? Victoria, she wants power, not partnership. She wants to be Luna so she can control the pack, not support it. Sarah's eyes were troubled. A true Luna puts the pack first, but Victoria only cares about herself. Does Kieran know that? He knows, but the elders are pushing for him to choose someone. The pack needs a Luna, needs a mother figure, needs stability. Sarah sighed. And Victoria has positioned herself perfectly. She's strong, connected, politically savvy. On paper, she's the perfect choice. But not in reality. Not in reality, Sarah confirmed. But Kieran's not thinking with his heart right now. He's thinking like an alpha, doing what's best for the pack even if it destroys him. The dance ended. Victoria stood on her toes and whispered something else in Kieran's ear. Then before he could react, she kissed his cheek. The crowd erupted in cheers and howls. Victoria pulled back, her expression victorious. She just staked her claim in front of the entire pack. And Kieran looked like he wanted to shift and run into the forest and never come back. His gold eyes swept across the crowd and landed on me. For a second, just a second, I saw something in them, something desperate, something that looked almost like a plea for help. Then it was gone, replaced by that cold, controlled mask he always wore. He turned away from Victoria and walked back toward the platform, calling out that it was time to end the celebration and let people rest. The crowd began to disperse, wolves heading back to their homes, still talking and laughing about the evening's events. Victoria shot me one last triumphant look, before disappearing into the crowd with a group of female wolves who were all congratulating her. Come on, Sarah said gently. Let's get you and Leo back inside, you both look exhausted. She was right. Leo was practically falling asleep on his feet, and I felt like I'd run a marathon. We made our way back through the palace, Sarah guiding us through the winding corridors. When we reached Leo's room, Kieran was already there, standing in the doorway like he'd been waiting. "I'll take him," Kieran said, his voice rough. Leo went to his father, and Kieran scooped him up effortlessly. Leo's head dropped onto his father's shoulder, his eyes already closing. "Thank you," Kieran said to Sarah, "you can go." Sarah bowed her head and left, leaving me alone with the Alpha and his sleeping son. "I should go too," I said quietly, "let you put him to bed." "Wait," Kieran's voice stopped me. "I need to. I want to thank you for tonight, for making him happy." "He's a good kid, it's easy to make him happy." "It wasn't always." Kieran looked down at his son and his expression softened in a way I'd never seen before. He used to cry all the time, wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep. The pack healers said there was nothing wrong with him physically, he was just sad. "He missed his mother," I said gently. "He never knew his mother, she died minutes after he was born." Kieran's voice was barely above a whisper, but I think he felt it, felt that something was missing, someone who should have been there wasn't. "I'm sorry." "Don't be, it's not your burden to carry." He adjusted Leo in his arms. "But you should know, the pack is going to expect things now. After tonight, after that dance with Victoria, they're going to assume I'm making a choice soon." My stomach dropped. "Are you?" "I don't know." He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw exhaustion in his eyes. "I don't want to, but the pack needs a Luna. Leo needs a mother figure, and I need someone who can handle this life, someone strong enough to stand beside me. And Victoria is that person. Victoria is what the pack expects." He turned away. "Whether she's what I want doesn't matter." "That's not true." "It is true." His voice got harder. "I'm not just Kieran, I'm the Alpha. Every decision I make affects hundreds of wolves. I don't get to choose based on what I want. I have to choose what's best for everyone. Even if it makes you miserable." Especially then. He started walking toward Leo's room. "Get some rest, Emma, tomorrow will be harder than today." "Why?" He paused at the doorway and looked back at me over his shoulder. "Because tomorrow, the challenges begin." "What challenges?" But he was already gone, disappearing into Leo's room and closing the door behind him. I stood there for a moment, my mind racing. Then I walked back to my own room, my feet heavy with exhaustion and confusion. I changed into the soft nightgown someone had left on my bed and climbed under the covers. The bed was so comfortable, so warm, that I should have fallen asleep immediately. But I couldn't stop thinking about Kieran's words. The challenges begin. What did that mean? What challenges? And why did it sound so ominous? I was still wondering when sleep finally pulled me under. And I dreamed of gold eyes and silver fur, and a howl that echoed through the darkness like a warning. I woke to screaming. I bolted upright, my heart pounding, trying to figure out what was happening. It was still dark outside, the moon hanging low in the sky. Another scream, high-pitched and terrified, came from somewhere in the palace. I threw off the covers and ran to my door, yanking it open. The hallway was chaos. Wolves were running everywhere, some in human form, some fully shifted. Voices were shouting, overlapping, creating a wall of sound that made it impossible to understand what anyone was saying. I grabbed the arm of a young wolf running past. "What's happening?" She looked at me with wide, frightened eyes. "Attack, we're under attack." Then she was gone, racing down the hallway with the others. My blood turned to ice. "Leo." I ran toward his room, pushing past wolves, dodging around people, my bare feet slapping against the cold stone floor. His door was open, his room was empty. No Leo, no Kieran. Panic seized my chest. "Leo," I screamed, "Leo." "He's not here," a familiar voice came from behind me. I spun around to see Victoria standing there, her expression unreadable. She was wearing fighting clothes now, leather and metal, and she had a sword strapped to her back. "Where is he?" I demanded. "Where's Leo?" "The Alpha took him to the safe room when the attack started. He's protected." Victoria tilted her head. "But you're not. You should go back to your room, human, lock the door, hide under the bed. This is pack business." "What kind of attack?" "Rogues," her eyes glittered. "A whole army of them. They've breached our borders and they're heading straight for the palace." My stomach dropped. Why, what do they want? Victoria smiled then, slow and cruel. They heard we have something valuable, something weak, something that doesn't belong here. She took a step closer, and I took a step back. They heard, Victoria continued, her voice dropping lower, that the Alpha is protecting a human. And rogues love nothing more than proving that humans make packs vulnerable. You told them, I breathed, you told them I was here. Did I? Victoria's smile widened. I would never betray my pack like that, but I might have mentioned it to a friend, who might have mentioned it to another friend, who might have very loose connections to rogue wolves who would love any excuse to attack Silver Moon. Horror flooded through me. You brought them here, you put everyone in danger just to get rid of me. I brought them here to prove a point, Victoria corrected. That humans don't belong in pack lands, that they make us weak, that the Alpha needs to focus on real threats, not protecting some pathetic little human who thinks she can play mother to his son. Voices were getting closer, shouting, snarling. Victoria's expression shifted into something that looked almost like pity. Run, little human, run as fast as you can, because when those rogues find you, and they will find you, there won't be anything left but blood and screaming. Then she turned and walked away, leaving me standing alone in the hallway. My hands were shaking, my breath was coming in short, panicked gasps. I had to find Kieran, had to warn him, had to tell him that Victoria had betrayed the pack. But before I could move, I heard it. Footsteps, heavy, multiple, coming from the other end of the hallway. And voices, rough, cruel voices laughing about what they were going to do when they found the human. I ran. I didn't know where I was going, didn't have a plan, just knew I had to get away. I took turn after turn, running through corridors I didn't recognize, trying to put as much distance between me and those terrible voices as possible. But they were faster, stronger, and they were hunting. I smell her, one of them growled, fresh human, young, scared. The Alpha's pet, another one laughed. Can't wait to see his face when we bring him her head. I pushed myself harder, my lungs burning, my feet bleeding from running on the rough stone. There, a door, I grabbed the handle and yanked it open, stumbling through into a dead end. It was a small room, empty except for some old furniture and dusty tapestries. No other doors, no windows, no way out. I'd trapped myself. The footsteps got closer, closer. I looked around frantically for something, anything I could use as a weapon. There was an old chair with a broken leg. I grabbed it, holding it out in front of me like it could possibly protect me from werewolves. The door burst open. 3 rogues stood there. They were massive, even bigger than Kieran, with matted fur and scars covering their bodies. Their eyes were red, not gold or silver, just red like blood. And they were all staring at me with expressions that made me want to vomit. Well, well, the biggest one said, grinning to show teeth filed to points. Look what we found. I backed up until I hit the wall. There was nowhere left to go. The rogue took a step forward, then another. Please, I whispered, please don't. He laughed. Oh, we're going to do a lot more than don't, little human. We're going to make sure the Alpha learns what happens when he lets weak things into his territory. He reached for me. And then the world exploded. The wall behind the rogues literally exploded, stone and dust flying everywhere. And through the hole came a wolf so big, so powerful, so radiating with fury that the rogues actually froze in fear. Silver fur, gold eyes burning like the sun. Kieran. He didn't hesitate, didn't speak, just launched himself at the rogues with a roar that shook the entire palace. What happened next was brutal. Kieran tore into them like they were made of paper. Claws flashing, teeth snapping, moving so fast he was almost a blur. The rogues tried to fight back, but they were nothing compared to him. He was an Alpha, ancient, powerful, unstoppable. In less than a minute, all 3 rogues were on the ground, not dead but broken, bleeding, whimpering. Kieran shifted back to human form. Breathing hard, covered in blood that wasn't his eyes found mine across the room. Are you hurt? His voice was rough, barely controlled. I shook my head, too shocked to speak. He crossed the room in 3 long strides and grabbed my shoulders, his hands shaking. Did they touch you? No, you got here in time. Relief flooded his expression, then it shifted into something else, something darker. How did they find you? He demanded, How did they know where you were? Victoria, I managed. She told them. She brought them here to prove that humans make the pack weak. Kieran's eyes flashed so bright I had to look away. She what? She admitted it, said she wanted to get rid of me, that you needed to focus on the pack, not on protecting me. For a moment Kieran didn't move, didn't breathe. His entire body was vibrating with barely contained rage. Then he threw back his head and let out a howl so loud, so powerful, so full of fury that I felt it in my bones. Every wolf in the palace would hear that howl, would know their alpha was beyond angry. Would know that someone was about to pay. The palace fell silent. That howl cut through every sound, every voice, every heartbeat. It was a command and a promise and a threat all wrapped into one terrible sound. Within seconds, wolves started pouring into the room. Pack members, warriors, elders, all of them shifted back to human form, all of them bowing their heads when they saw their alpha. Kieran stood in the center of the destroyed room, still covered in blood, his chest heaving with rage barely held in check. His gold eyes swept across every face, and I saw wolves flinch away from his gaze. "Find Victoria," Kieran said, his voice deadly calm. "Bring her to the main hall, now." 3 large wolves immediately shifted and ran out of the room. "The rest of you secure the borders, find every rogue that breached our territory and bring them to me alive. I want answers." His eyes burned brighter. "And someone find my son, bring him to me, I need to see that he's safe." Wolves scattered in every direction, moving with purpose and fear. Sarah appeared at my side, her face pale. "Emma, come with me, we need to get you cleaned up." I looked down and realized I was shaking. My nightgown was torn, my feet were bleeding, and I had dust and stone covering every inch of me. "No," Kieran's voice stopped us both. "She stays with me." Sarah's eyes widened, but she bowed her head. "Yes, Alpha." Kieran turned to me, and some of the rage in his expression softened. "Can you walk?" I nodded, even though my legs felt like water. He moved toward me, and before I could protest, he'd swept me up into his arms, holding me against his chest like I weighed nothing. "Kieran, I can walk. Your feet are bleeding, you're in shock, and I'm not letting you out of my sight until every rogue in this territory is dead or captured." His arms tightened around me. "So stop arguing." I didn't have the energy to fight. I just rested my head against his shoulder and let him carry me through the palace. Wolves bowed as we passed. Some looked concerned, some looked confused, and some, I noticed, looked angry, like they blamed me for bringing this attack to their home. Maybe they were right. Kieran took me to his private chambers. I'd never been inside before. The room was massive, with dark wood furniture and weapons mounted on the walls. There was a huge bed with black silk sheets, a fireplace twice my height, and windows that looked out over the entire pack lands. He set me down gently on a chair near the fire and disappeared into another room. He came back with a first aid kit and a bowl of warm water. "Let me see your feet," he said, kneeling in front of me. "You don't have to." "Emma," he looked up at me, and there was something in his eyes I couldn't quite read. "Please, just let me help you." I lifted my feet, and he carefully began cleaning the cuts. His hands were gentle despite their size, his touch surprisingly tender. He worked in silence, wrapping bandages around my feet with practiced efficiency. "You've done this before," I said quietly. "I've patched up wounded wolves for decades." He tied off the last bandage. "Your feet will heal in a few days. Try not to run on stone floors anymore." "I'll do my best not to get chased by rogues again." His jaw clenched. "That should never have happened. You should have been safe here, protected, and instead..." He stood abruptly and walked to the window, his back to me. "Instead I failed. I brought you into my world and I couldn't even keep you safe for one night. This wasn't your fault." "Of course it was my fault." He turned, and the anguish on his face made my chest ache. "I'm the Alpha. Everything that happens in this pack is my responsibility. Every attack, every betrayal, every drop of blood spilled. Mine. Victoria made her own choice. And I should have seen it coming, should have known she'd try something." He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I was so focused on Leo, on getting him home safe, that I didn't pay attention to the threats inside my own pack. There was a knock on the door. Kieran called out permission to enter, and a young wolf came in holding Leo's hand. "Papa," Leo ran across the room and threw himself at Kieran, who caught him and held him tight. Are you okay? Kieran asked, his voice rough with emotion. Were you scared? A little, but the guards said you would protect us, and you did. Leo pulled back and looked at his father with such trust, such love, that I had to look away. You're the strongest alpha ever. Kieran closed his eyes briefly, like the words hurt and healed at the same time. Go to Emma, stay with her. I have to deal with some pack business, but I'll be back soon. Leo nodded and came to sit beside me. I put my arm around him and he leaned into me. Another wolf appeared at the door, this one breathing hard. Alpha, we have her. Victoria is in the main hall. Kieran's expression went cold. Good, gather the elders. This is a formal challenge to her loyalty. Everyone needs to witness it. The wolf bowed and disappeared. Kieran started to leave, then paused. He looked back at me and Leo, sitting together by the fire. Stay here, he said. Both of you, lock the door when I leave. Don't open it for anyone except me or Sarah. What are you going to do? I asked, even though I was afraid of the answer. What I should have done the moment she threatened you. His eyes flashed gold. I'm going to make an example of her. Then he was gone, the door closing behind him with a heavy thud. I got up and locked it like he'd asked, then went back to Leo. Is Papa going to hurt Victoria? Leo asked quietly. I don't know, sweetheart. She's mean, she always looks at Papa like she owns him, and she looks at me like I'm something she has to tolerate. Leo's little hands twisted in his lap. I don't want her to be my new mama. My heart broke. You don't have to worry about that right now. But Papa said the pack needs a Luna, and everyone says Victoria is going to be chosen. What if he picks her? What if she makes him send you away? I pulled him close. Whatever happens, I promise I won't leave you unless you want me to, okay? I never want you to leave, Leo whispered. You're the only one who makes everything feel safe. We sat there together, listening to the sounds of the pack mobilizing outside. Footsteps, voices, the occasional howl. Everything was tense, electric, waiting for whatever came next. About 20 minutes later, there was a gentle knock on the door. Emma, it's Sarah. Kieran sent me to stay with you. I unlocked the door and let her in. She looked worried, her eyes darting around like she expected danger to appear any second. Is it over? I asked. The attack? All the rogues are either dead or captured. We lost 3 wolves in the fighting, but it could have been worse. Sarah sat down on the edge of Kieran's bed. The Alpha is interrogating them now, trying to find out how they knew about you, how they got past our defenses. Victoria told them. I know, word is spreading through the pack like wildfire. Nobody can believe it, the beater's daughter betraying us to rogues. Sarah shook her head. It's unthinkable. What will happen to her? That depends on what the elders decide. But betraying the pack to outside enemies is one of the worst crimes a wolf can commit. She could be banished, stripped of her rank, or, Sarah's voice dropped lower, she could be executed. Leo made a small sound of distress. But that's a last resort, Sarah added quickly, seeing his face. The Alpha will be fair, he always is. Fair doesn't mean merciful, I said quietly. No, it doesn't. We waited, minutes felt like hours. Leo eventually fell asleep curled up in my lap, exhausted from the stress of the night. I stroked his hair gently, those soft wolf ears twitching occasionally in his sleep. Finally, as dawn was breaking outside the windows, Kieran returned. He looked exhausted. There were new cuts on his arms and chest, and the blood had been cleaned away, but his clothes were ruined. His eyes were dimmer than before, the gold not quite as bright. Is he asleep? Kieran asked, nodding toward Leo. Just barely, I whispered. Kieran crossed the room and carefully lifted his son from my arms. Leo stirred but didn't wake as his father carried him to the bed and laid him down, pulling the covers over him. Then Kieran turned to Sarah. Go get some rest, you've done enough for tonight. Sarah bowed her head and left without a word. Kieran walked to a cabinet and poured himself a drink, something amber and strong. He downed it in one gulp, then poured another. Victoria confessed, he said finally. To everything. She contacted the rogues, told them about you, gave them information about our patrol routes and weak points in our defenses, all so she could prove that protecting a human made us vulnerable. What did the elders decide? Banishment, effective immediately. She's being escorted to the border as we speak with nothing but the clothes on her back. If she ever sets foot in Silver Moon territory again, she'll be killed on sight. I should have felt relieved, but all I felt was tired. I'm sorry. Kieran looked at me sharply. For what? For causing all of this. If I hadn't come here, Victoria wouldn't have done what she did. Your pack wouldn't have been attacked. Those 3 wolves wouldn't be dead. Stop. Kieran set down his glass and walked over to me. This is not your fault. Victoria made her choice. She let jealousy and ambition cloud her judgment. She betrayed everything we stand for. He reached out and tilted my chin up so I had to look at him. You saved my son. You protected him when he was helpless. You stood up to me when any reasonable person would have run. You have done nothing wrong. Your pack doesn't see it that way. I saw how some of them looked at me. They blame me. Then they're fools. His thumb brushed across my cheek and I realized I was crying. You're the bravest person I've ever met, Emma, human or wolf. I don't feel brave, I feel terrified. That's what bravery is, being terrified and doing the right thing anyway. We stood there like that, his hand on my face, his eyes locked on mine. The room felt too warm suddenly, too small. I could hear his heartbeat, strong and steady, could smell pine and earth and something uniquely him. Kieran, I whispered, not even sure what I was asking for. His eyes dropped to my lips. For one breathless second I thought he might kiss me. Then he stepped back, his hand falling away. You should get some rest, it's been a long night. The moment shattered like glass. Right, yes, of course. I stood up too quickly and my bandaged feet protested. I winced. Stay here, Kieran said. Take the bed, I'll sleep in the chair. I can't take your bed. Emma, he gave me a look that said he wasn't going to argue. You're injured, exhausted, and Leo is already asleep there anyway. Just, please, stay. I was too tired to fight. I climbed into the huge bed beside Leo, careful not to wake him. The sheets were soft and smelled like Kieran, like safety. Kieran settled into a chair near the fireplace, his long legs stretched out in front of him. He looked too big for the furniture, uncomfortable and out of place. Kieran, I called softly. Thank you for saving me, for everything. He turned his head to look at me, and in the firelight his eyes glowed softly. You don't need to thank me for that. Protecting you is. He stopped like he'd almost said something he shouldn't. Get some sleep. I closed my eyes, my body finally giving in to exhaustion. But just before I drifted off, I heard him whisper something so quietly I almost missed it. You're making this so much harder than it should be. I wanted to ask what he meant, but sleep pulled me under before I could form the words. When I woke it was late afternoon. Sunlight was streaming through the windows, warm and golden. Leo was gone, but there was a note on the pillow beside me in surprisingly elegant handwriting. Gone to morning training. Sarah will bring you breakfast. Don't leave the palace without a guard. K. I sat up and found my feet had been wrapped in fresh bandages while I slept. There were clothes laid out on a chair. Real clothes this time, not just a nightgown. Pants, a shirt, a thick sweater. A knock came at the door. Emma, it's me. I opened it to find Sarah holding a tray of food. She came in and set it on a small table near the window. How are you feeling? She asked. Better, sore but better. I sat down and started eating. I hadn't realized how hungry I was until I smelled the food. Where's Leo? Training with the other cubs, the alpha insisted, said life has to return to normal and that includes Leo's education. Sarah hesitated. But he's different today. Gentler with Leo, I mean, several wolves commented on it. He let Leo take breaks, praised him when he did well, even laughed once. That's good, that's what Leo needs. The pack is saying it's because of you. Sarah looked at me carefully. They're saying you've changed the alpha. Made him softer, more human. I didn't know how to respond to that. Some think it's good, Sarah continued. Some think it's dangerous and some, she paused, some think you're trying to replace our Luna. My stomach dropped, I'm not. I know, but perception matters in a pack. And right now people are watching you and the alpha very closely, especially after last night. What do you mean? The way he carried you, the way he protected you, the way he looked at you. Sarah's voice was gentle. Emma, I don't think you realize what you're doing to him. I'm not doing anything. That's exactly the problem. Sarah stood up. Just, be careful, okay? The alpha hasn't looked at anyone the way he looks at you since his mate died, and that's dangerous for both of you. She left before I could ask what she meant. I finished eating in silence, my mind racing. Was Sarah right? Was there something between Kieran and me? Something more than just concern for Leo. No, that was ridiculous. He was an alpha werewolf. I was a human. We were from completely different worlds. He'd said himself that the pack needed a Luna, someone strong, someone who belonged here. I didn't belong here. I was just a temporary guest, a protector for Leo until things stabilized. Then I'd go back to my quiet life, my little house, my normal existence. That was the plan. So why did the thought of leaving make my chest ache? I spent the rest of the day exploring the palace with Sarah as my guide. She showed me the library, which was massive and filled with books about pack history, wolf lore and ancient traditions. She showed me the kitchens, where dozens of wolves worked to feed the pack. She showed me the training grounds, where I caught a glimpse of Leo practicing his forms with the other cubs. He looked happy, confident, and when he saw me watching, his whole face lit up. That night there was a pack dinner. Apparently it was tradition after an attack to gather and reaffirm bonds, to mourn those who were lost and celebrate those who survived. I sat at a long table with Sarah and several other pack members. Kieran sat at the head table with Leo and the elders, and though he participated in conversations, his eyes kept finding me across the room. Every time our gazes met, something electric passed between us, something I didn't want to name. After dinner there was music again. Not the wild celebration from before, but something slower, sadder, a memorial for the fallen wolves. I stood at the edge of the crowd, listening to wolves share stories about their fallen packmates, about their bravery, their loyalty, their sacrifice. They died because of you. I turned to find a large male wolf standing beside me. He was older, with grey streaking his dark hair and scars covering his arms. His eyes were cold. The rogues came because you're here, he continued, his voice low so only I could hear. 3 good wolves are dead because the alpha is too distracted protecting a weak human to focus on real threats. My throat tightened. I'm sorry for your loss. Sorry doesn't bring them back. He leaned closer and I caught the scent of anger rolling off him. You need to leave, go back to your world, before more wolves die for your sake. That's enough, Marcus. Kieran's voice cut through the air like a blade. The male wolf immediately bowed his head. Alpha, I meant no disrespect. You just disrespected my guest, in front of the entire pack. Kieran stepped between us, his body blocking mine from Marcus's view. Emma is here under my protection. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me directly. Is that clear? Marcus's jaw clenched, but he bowed deeper. Crystal clear, Alpha. Good, now apologize. I'm sorry, Marcus ground out, not looking at me. I spoke out of turn. Kieran stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. Go cool off. Marcus left, and I could feel the eyes of every wolf in the room on us. Kieran turned to me. Are you all right? Fine, he's grieving. That doesn't give him the right to blame you. Kieran's hand found mine, his fingers wrapping around my smaller ones. Come on, you need some air. He led me out of the hall and into the gardens behind the palace. The night was cool and clear, the moon hanging full and bright overhead. We walked in silence for a while, just moving through pathways lined with flowers that glowed faintly in the moonlight. I'm causing problems for you, I said finally. For your pack, maybe Marcus is right, maybe I should leave. Kieran stopped walking. Is that what you want? No, but it doesn't matter what I want. It matters what's best for Leo, for your pack. And you think leaving is what's best? I looked up at him, this powerful alpha who'd saved my life, who'd protected me against his own pack members, who looked at me like I was something precious and fragile and confusing all at once. I don't know, I whispered. I don't know anything anymore. Kieran reached up and cupped my face in his hand, his thumb brushing across my cheekbone. You want to know what I think? I couldn't speak, so I just nodded. I think you're the best thing that's happened to my son in 6 years. I think you've reminded me what it means to care about someone beyond duty and responsibility. And I think, he paused, his gold eyes searching mine. I think I'm terrified of how much I need you to stay. My breath caught. Kieran. Don't say anything, not yet. His hand dropped away. Just think about it, think about whether this is something you want. Because if you really stay, everything changes. For you, for me, for Leo, for the pack. What do you mean? He smiled, sad and beautiful. You know what I mean, Emma. You've known since the moment I saw you standing on your porch telling an alpha no. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might explode. Before I could respond, a howl split the night, not a normal howl, a warning howl. Kieran's entire body went tense. No, not again. Another howl joined the first, then another, then a dozen more. What is it? I asked, already knowing the answer wouldn't be good. Kieran shifted in seconds, his body transforming into that massive silver wolf. He looked at me once with those burning gold eyes, and I saw fear there. Then he was gone, racing toward the source of the howls. And I was left standing alone in the garden, with the sound of screaming rising in the distance. I didn't wait. I know Kieran told me to stay inside, to stay safe, to let the wolves handle wolf business. But I heard that screaming and all I could think was, what if it's Leo? I ran toward the sound, ignoring the sharp pain in my still healing feet. The gardens blurred past me, and then I was at the edge of the training grounds where a crowd of wolves had gathered in a tight circle. I pushed through them, using my elbows, not caring that I was shoving creatures who could snap me in half without thinking. Let me through, I shouted. Move. Maybe it was the desperation in my voice, or maybe they were too shocked that a human was giving them orders, but they parted. And I saw. Leo was in the center of the circle, curled up on the ground with his arms over his head. Standing over him was a massive brown wolf, lips pulled back in a snarl, saliva dripping from teeth that looked like knives. And in front of Leo, standing between him and the wolf, was a small female wolf. She couldn't have been more than a year old, barely out of cubhood herself. Her white fur was bristling, her little body shaking with fear, but she wasn't backing down. Iris, move, someone shouted from the crowd. You can't fight him. The brown wolf laughed, a terrible sound coming from a wolf's throat. Then he spoke, his voice distorted but understandable. Pathetic, the heir needs a cub to protect him. This is what will lead our pack one day, this weakness. Derek, stand down. Another wolf, older and scarred, tried to step forward. This isn't the way. The way, Derek snarled. The way is strength, the way is proving who deserves to lead. And this, he gestured with his massive head toward Leo, this is not an alpha, this is a mistake. Rage, hot and bright, flooded through my veins. Before I even knew what I was doing, I was moving. I grabbed a training staff from a rack at the edge of the grounds. It was made for wolves and was heavy enough that I could barely lift it, and I ran straight at Derek. Get away from him, I screamed. Derek's head snapped toward me, his red-tinged eyes widened in shock. Then I swung the staff with everything I had. It connected with the side of his head with a sickening crack. Derek yelped and stumbled sideways, more from surprise than pain. A human had just hit him. A weak, pathetic human had actually struck a full-grown werewolf warrior. The entire crowd went silent. Derek recovered quickly, shaking his head and then focusing on me with an expression that promised death. He shifted partially, standing on two legs now, his body caught between wolf and human. Blood trickled from where the staff had hit him. You dare, he growled, taking a step toward me. You dare attack a pack warrior. I held the staff in front of me with shaking hands, positioning myself between him and the children. You were threatening a child, a 6-year-old child. What kind of warrior does that? I was teaching him a lesson, about weakness, about what happens when you're not strong enough to protect yourself. By terrifying him, by making him think he's going to die, my voice was shaking with anger now. That's not teaching, that's cruelty. Derek's eyes flashed dangerously. You know nothing about pack ways, human. This is how we raise strong wolves, how we separate the worthy from the weak. Then your ways are wrong. A collective gasp went through the crowd. You could insult a wolf's fighting ability, question their loyalty, even challenge their rank. But you didn't insult pack traditions, not unless you wanted to die. Derek smiled, showing all his teeth. You just signed your death warrant. He lunged at me. I tried to swing the staff again, but he was too fast. His clawed hand batted it aside like it was a twig, and then his other hand was wrapping around my throat, lifting me off the ground. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream, could only claw uselessly at his arm while black spots danced in my vision. Let her go. Leo's voice high and desperate. Not until she learns her place, Derek snarled, his grip tightening. The world was going dark. I was going to die. Going to die in a werewolf pack lands, killed for trying to protect a child. Then Derek's eyes went wide. His grip loosened. And he dropped me. I hit the ground hard, gasping for air, my throat burning. Through watering eyes, I saw why Derek had let go. Kieran was there. But not in wolf form. He was human, wearing only pants, his chest bare and covered in sweat like he'd just shifted back. And his hand was wrapped around Derek's throat, holding him in the air the same way Derek had held me. You, Kieran said, his voice so cold it could freeze fire, just attacked my son, threatened a child under my protection, and put your hands on my guest. Derek's face was turning purple. Alpha, I was just training. Training, Kieran's grip tightened and I heard bones creaking. You were terrorizing a 6-year-old, you made my son fear for his life, and then you tried to kill the woman who saved him. She's human, doesn't understand pack law. I understand pack law perfectly. Kieran threw Derek to the ground like he was garbage. And pack law says that anyone who threatens the heir answers to me. Anyone who attacks a protected guest answers to me. Anyone who shows that level of disrespect to their alpha answers to me. Derek tried to get up, tried to shift, tried to do anything. But Kieran was faster. He grabbed Derek by the back of the neck and slammed him face first into the dirt. You have 3 seconds to explain why I shouldn't rip your throat out right now, Kieran said quietly. I thought I was helping, Derek gasped. Making him stronger, he needs to be strong to be alpha. He is 6 years old, Kieran roared, and the sound made every wolf in the vicinity cringe. He is a child, my child, and the only thing he needs to be right now is safe and loved and allowed to grow at his own pace. Kieran looked up at the crowd, his gold eyes blazing. Let me make something very clear to all of you. If anyone, and I mean anyone, ever threatens my son again, ever makes him feel like he's not enough, ever treats him with anything less than the respect he deserves, I will personally ensure you regret the day you were born. He turned his gaze back to Derek. As for you, you're stripped of your warrior rank. You'll work in the kitchens until I decide you've learned what it means to serve instead of terrorize. If you ever go near Leo again, if you even look at him wrong, you're banished. Understood? Derek's face was a mask of shame and rage, but he nodded. Yes, Alpha. Get out of my sight. Derek scrambled away and the crowd parted for him. Several wolves looked relieved. A few looked like they agreed with what Derek had been doing, and some just looked confused. Kieran turned to me. In 2 strides he was kneeling beside me, his hands gentle as they examined my throat. Did he break anything? I shook my head, still trying to catch my breath. I'm okay. You're not okay, your throat is already bruising. His jaw clenched. I should have killed him. No, you did the right thing. I touched his arm. Leo doesn't need to see more violence, he needs to see justice. Mercy, that's what you gave him. Kieran stared at me for a long moment, something unreadable in his eyes. Then he stood and turned to Leo, who was still on the ground with the little white wolf beside him. Leo, come here. Leo scrambled to his feet and ran to his father. Kieran caught him and lifted him up, holding him tight. Are you hurt? Kieran asked, his voice much softer now. No, Iris protected me, and then Emma came and, Leo's voice broke. I was so scared, Papa. Derek said I was weak, that I'd never be a real alpha, that the pack would be better off without me. I saw Kieran's hands shake with suppressed rage, but when he spoke his voice was calm. Derek was wrong. You are strong, Leo, so strong. Do you know how I know? Leo shook his head. Because when Derek attacked, you didn't fight back. You covered yourself and waited for help. That's smart. That's what you should do when an opponent is bigger and stronger. Kieran set Leo down and knelt so they were eye to eye. Knowing when to fight and when to protect yourself is the most important lesson an alpha can learn, and you already understand it. Derek never did. Really? Leo's voice was small and hopeful. Really? Kieran pulled him close again. I'm so proud of you, son, so incredibly proud. Leo started crying then, big gasping sobs that came from somewhere deep inside. Kieran just held him, rocking him gently, murmuring soft words in a language I didn't understand. The little white wolf, Iris, shifted back into a small girl with platinum blonde hair and silver eyes. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old, and she was staring at Kieran with a mixture of awe and terror. Alpha, she whispered. I'm sorry. I know I'm not supposed to fight the warriors, but Leo is my friend and Derek was being mean and I just... Kieran held out his free arm, and Iris cautiously came closer. He pulled her into the hug too, including her with Leo. You, Kieran said to her, are one of the bravest wolves I've ever seen. You stood up against a full-grown warrior to protect your friend, that takes courage most adults don't have. Iris's eyes went wide. I'm not in trouble. You're not in trouble, you're a hero. Kieran looked at both children. Both of you are, and I want the whole pack to know it. He stood, still holding both children, and raised his voice. Let it be known that Iris, daughter of the Omega healer, showed extraordinary courage tonight. She protected the heir at risk to herself. She embodies everything Silver Moon stands for. The crowd erupted in howls of approval. Iris's mother, a small woman with the same platinum hair, burst into tears of pride. And let it also be known, Kieran continued, his eyes finding mine, that Emma Clark, human though she may be, has now twice protected my son. Once from rogues and tonight from one of our own. She has earned not just my protection but my respect, and the respect of this pack. Maury howls, though these were more tentative. Not everyone agreed, I could tell, but they wouldn't argue with their alpha. Kieran set the children down gently. Leo, take Iris to her mother, then both of you go inside and have the healers check you over. Yes, Papa. Leo grabbed Iris's hand, and they walked off together, the little white-haired girl chattering excitedly about how she'd been so scared but she'd done it anyway. Kieran turned back to the crowd. Training is over for tonight, everyone return to your duties. The wolves dispersed quickly, some casting curious glances back at us. Then it was just Kieran and me in the middle of the training grounds. He closed the distance between us in 2 steps and pulled me against his chest, his arms wrapping around me like he was afraid I might disappear. Don't ever do that again, he said roughly, his face buried in my hair. Don't ever put yourself between danger and my son, that's my job. Someone had to do something, I said, my voice muffled against his chest. He was terrifying them. And he could have killed you. Kieran pulled back just enough to look at me, his hands cupping my face. Emma, you're human, you're breakable, you can't fight wolves, you can't. I can't stand by and watch a child be hurt, I interrupted. I don't care how breakable I am, I don't care how dangerous it is. If someone is hurting Leo, I'm going to do something about it. Kieran stared at me and I saw a dozen emotions flicker across his face. Frustration, fear, anger and something else, something that made my breath catch. You're going to be the death of me, he whispered. Hopefully not literally. He laughed, short and sharp and almost painful sounding. You have no idea what you're doing to me, no idea how hard this is. What's hard? This, you, everything. His thumbs brushed across my cheeks. I'm trying so hard to do the right thing, to keep my distance, to remember that you're human and I'm alpha and we come from different worlds, but then you do something like this, something brave and reckless and so incredibly selfless that I can't. He stopped himself, jaw clenching. Can't what? I asked softly. Can't remember why I'm supposed to stay away from you. My heart was racing, Kieran. The pack expects me to choose a mate. A Luna, someone strong and powerful who can stand beside me and help lead. His eyes were burning into mine. They expect me to choose a wolf. I know. But I don't want a wolf. The words came out raw, honest, like they'd been torn from somewhere deep inside him. I want you. The world stopped. Everything, the sounds of the pack in the distance, the wind in the trees, my own heartbeat, everything just stopped. You can't mean that, I whispered. I do, God help me, I do. He leaned his forehead against mine. From the moment you stood on your porch and told me no, from the moment you looked at me like I was just a man and not an alpha to be feared, I was lost. And then you came here into my world and you fit. You fit with Leo. You fit with the pack. You fit with me in ways I didn't know were possible. But I'm human. I don't care. The pack will never accept. I don't care, he said again, more forcefully. Emma, I have spent 6 years doing what the pack needs, what the elders want, what tradition demands. 6 years of being the perfect alpha, the strong leader, the one who never shows weakness. And I'm tired. I'm so tired of being alone. Tears were streaming down my face now. This is crazy, we barely know each other. I know that you're brave, I know that you're kind. I know that you protect the innocent without thought for your own safety. I know that my son loves you. I know that you make me want to be better, not stronger, not more powerful, just better. His hands tightened on my face. Tell me you don't feel it too. Tell me I'm imagining this connection between us. I couldn't because I did feel it. Had felt it since that first night when he'd come to my door, all rage and power and barely contained grief. Had felt it growing stronger every day, every conversation, every moment we spent together. I feel it, I admitted, but that doesn't mean. I didn't get to finish. Because Kieran kissed me. It wasn't gentle, wasn't soft or tentative. It was desperate and fierce and full of 6 years of loneliness and grief and need. And I kissed him back. My hands fisted in his hair, pulling him closer. His arms wrapped around my waist, lifting me off the ground like I weighed nothing. We were both shaking, both gasping, both pouring everything we couldn't say into this kiss. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. This changes everything, Kieran said, his voice rough. I know. The pack will fight this, the elders will object. There will be challenges, resistance, maybe even revolt. I know. And I don't care. He kissed me again, softer this time. I don't care about any of it because you're mine now, and I protect what's mine. A howl split the night, then another, then a dozen. Kieran's head snapped up, his body going tense. No, what now? A young wolf came running up, his face pale with fear. Alpha, the scouts just returned. There's an army coming. Hundreds of rogues, all headed straight for us. They'll be here by dawn. My blood turned to ice. Kieran's arms tightened around me. How many? More than we've ever seen. And they're being led by, the young wolf swallowed hard, by someone in black armor, someone powerful. The scouts said his eyes are like fire. Kieran's face went white. No, it can't be. Who? I asked, fear crawling up my spine. Who is it? Kieran looked at me, and I saw something I'd never seen in his eyes before. True fear. His name is Raze, he's the rogue king, the most dangerous werewolf alive. Kieran's voice was hollow. He's been quiet for decades. We thought maybe he was dead, but if he's leading this army. What does that mean? It means, Kieran said quietly, that he's not just here to attack, he's here to destroy us completely. To wipe Silver Moon off the map. The young wolf bowed his head. The elders are calling for an emergency council. They need you, Alpha. Kieran nodded. He looked at me one more time, his eyes full of things he couldn't say. Then he pressed one more kiss to my forehead. Go to my chambers, lock the door, stay with Leo. I'll come back as soon as I can. Kieran. Please, Emma, I can't fight a war and worry about you at the same time. I need to know you're safe. I wanted to argue, wanted to say I could help. But I could see the fear in his eyes, the weight of responsibility settling back onto his shoulders. Okay, I whispered, be careful. Always, he touched my cheek once more. No matter what happens, Emma, remember this, you are mine, and I am yours, that's not changing. Then he was gone, running toward the main hall where the elders waited. I stood there for a moment, my fingers touching my lips where he'd kissed me, my heart still racing. Everything had changed in a matter of minutes. Kieran had claimed me, declared his feelings in front of the pack, kissed me like I was his entire world. And now an army was coming to destroy us all. I ran back to the palace, my injured feet screaming in protest, but I didn't care. I had to get to Leo, had to make sure he was safe. Because something told me this was going to be the longest night of our lives. And when dawn came, nothing would ever be the same again. The palace was in chaos. Wolves ran in every direction, some carrying weapons, others herding cubs toward the safe rooms deep underground. Voices shouted orders, questions, prayers. The air itself felt electric with fear and anticipation. I pushed through the crowds, fighting my way to Kieran's chambers. When I finally reached the door, I found it guarded by 2 massive wolves in human form. They looked at me with suspicious eyes. The Alpha said no one gets in, the larger one said. He told me to come here, to stay with Leo. They exchanged glances, then the second guard opened the door just enough for me to slip through before slamming it shut behind me. Inside, Leo was sitting on the bed with Iris beside him. They both looked terrified. Sarah was there too, packing back and forth like a caged animal. Leo jumped off the bed and ran to me. I caught him and held him tight. It's okay, sweetheart. Everything's going to be okay. Is Papa going to fight? Leo asked, his voice muffled against my shoulder. Your Papa is going to protect us. That's what alphas do. But what if he gets hurt? What if the bad wolves kill him? Leo pulled back, tears streaming down his face. I can't lose him too. I can't lose Papa like I lost Mama. My heart shattered. I knelt down so I was eye level with him. Listen to me, Leo. Your father is the strongest, bravest alpha in the world. He's going to fight with everything he has to keep us safe. and we're going to be right here waiting for him to come back. Okay. Leo nodded, but I could see the doubt in his silver eyes. Sarah came over and put her hand on my shoulder. Emma, we need to talk, alone. I looked at Leo and Iris. Can you two be brave for a few minutes? Stay on the bed. Don't open the door for anyone except me, Sarah, or the Alpha. They nodded and climbed back onto the bed, holding hands like lifelines. Sarah pulled me into the bathroom and closed the door. This is bad, she said immediately, her voice low and urgent. Worse than you know. Reyes isn't just any rogue, he's ancient, powerful, cruel. Legend says he once ruled a pack so large it covered half the continent. But when his mate died he went mad, killed his own pack members, burned his territory to the ground. Now he leads the rogues like an army and he destroys any pack that gets in his way. Why us, why now? I don't know, but Emma, Sarah grabbed my arms. The elders are saying this is because of you, that you've brought bad luck to the pack, that ever since you arrived we've had nothing but attacks and problems. Anger flared in my chest. That's not fair. I know it's not fair, but perception is reality in a pack, and right now people are scared and looking for someone to blame. Sarah's eyes were filled with worry. There's talk of offering you to Reyes as a peace offering, to make him leave us alone. Horror flooded through me. What? The elders suggested it in the council meeting. Said maybe if we give him what brought him here, he'll leave the rest of us alone. And Kieran, what did he say? Sarah's expression softened. He told them if anyone tries to touch you, he'll kill them himself. Then he told them to prepare for war because there's no negotiating with Reyes. The rogue king doesn't want peace. He wants blood. I leaned against the wall, my legs suddenly weak. How long do we have? Until dawn, maybe 6 hours. Sarah's voice dropped even lower. Emma, I need to tell you something I probably shouldn't, but you need to know. What? Kieran hasn't taken a mate since his Luna died because he's been waiting for the impossible, waiting for, she paused. There's an old prophecy. It says that when an alpha finds his true mate, his second chance, it will be someone unexpected, someone from outside the pack, someone who brings both destruction and salvation. My blood ran cold. You think that's me? I think Kieran thinks that's you. And I think that's why he's been fighting his feelings so hard. Because if you are his prophesied mate, then everything that's happening, the attacks, the rogues, Reyes coming here, it's all connected to you. The destruction part of the prophecy. What about the salvation part? That's the part nobody knows. The prophecy doesn't say how the salvation comes, just that it does. Sarah squeezed my arms. But Emma, if you're his true mate, if you're really meant to be together, then you're the most important person in this entire pack. More important than the elders, more important than tradition, more important than anything. That's insane. Maybe, but I've seen the way he looks at you, the way he protects you, the way he's willing to go against his entire pack for you. Sarah's eyes were intense. That's not just attraction, Emma. That's a mate bond trying to form, between a human and a werewolf, something that hasn't happened in centuries. Before I could respond, there was a loud bang from the main room. We ran out to find the guards had opened the door. Kieran stood there, still shirtless, now wearing armor made of leather and metal. He had weapons strapped to his back, his belt, his legs. He looked like a warrior king ready for battle. His eyes found mine immediately. We need to talk now. Sarah took the hint and went to sit with the children while Kieran pulled me back into the bathroom. I don't have much time, he said, his hands on my shoulders. The army will be here in less than 6 hours. We're preparing our defenses, but Emma, we're outnumbered 3-1. What are you saying? I'm saying we might not win this. His jaw clenched. And if we don't, if Reyes breaks through our defenses, I need you to run. Take Leo and run as far and as fast as you can. No, I'm not leaving you. You have to, his grip tightened. Leo is the heir, he's the future of this pack. If I die, if we fall, he's the only thing that matters. He needs to survive, and he needs you to make sure he does. Tears were streaming down my face. Don't talk like that. You're going to win. You're going to survive. We're going to figure this out together. Emma. No, I grabbed his face, making him look at me. You told me I'm yours. You kissed me. You made me believe in this, in us. So don't you dare give up before we've even had a chance. Something broke in his expression. He pulled me against his chest, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. I love you, he whispered into my hair. I know it's too soon, I know it's crazy, but I love you, Emma, and if I die tonight I need you to know that. My heart stopped again. You can't love me, we barely know each other. I know everything that matters, I know your heart, your courage, your soul. He pulled back to look at me, his gold eyes blazing. And my wolf knows. He's known since the first moment we saw you. You are my mate, my true mate, the one I've been waiting for without even knowing I was waiting. Kieran. A howl cut through the night, close, too close. Kieran's head snapped up. They're early, they're here now. Panic seized my chest, but you said 6 hours. Ray's lied, he wanted us unprepared. Kieran kissed me hard and fast. Stay here, lock the door. Protect Leo, I love you. Then he was gone, running out of the chambers, and shifting mid-stride into that massive silver wolf. I ran to the main room where the guards were already barricading the door from the outside. Through the windows I could see flames rising in the distance, could hear screaming, fighting, dying. The war had begun. Emma, I'm scared, Leo said, his little voice shaking. I went to him and gathered both him and Iris into my arms. I know, baby, me too, but we're going to be brave, okay? We're going to stay right here and be brave. Sarah joined us on the bed, and we sat there together, listening to the sounds of battle getting closer. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange, elastic, every sound made us jump, every silence was worse. Then finally the door burst open. But it wasn't Kieran. It was a wolf I'd never seen before, huge with black fur and eyes that glowed red like coals. He was covered in blood, and when he smiled his teeth were stained crimson. Well, well, he said, his voice like gravel scraping against stone. What do we have here? The Alpha's treasures all in one place. Sarah immediately shifted and put herself between us and the rogue. You'll have to go through me first. The rogue laughed with pleasure. He lunged at Sarah, and they collided in a tangle of fur and claws and teeth. They crashed into furniture, destroying everything in their path. I pulled Leo and Iris behind me, looking desperately for a weapon. Anything. My hand closed around a letter opener on Kieran's desk. It was small and pathetic, but it was sharp. Sarah was losing. The rogue was too big, too strong. He had her pinned, his jaws going for her throat. No, I screamed. I ran at him and drove the letter opener into his side with all my strength. The rogue howled and spun around, backhanding me so hard I flew across the room and slammed into the wall. Pain exploded through my body. I tasted blood. The rogue stalked toward me, Sarah's blood dripping from his muzzle. You made a mistake, little human, now you die first. He raised his clawed hand. And then the entire wall exploded. Stone and wood flew everywhere, and through the dust and debris came 2 wolves locked in combat. One was silver with gold eyes. The other was massive, covered in black armor with eyes like fire. Kieran and Ray's. They were moving so fast they were almost a blur. Kieran's claws scraped across Ray's armor, sending sparks flying. Ray's teeth snapped inches from Kieran's throat. The smaller rogue immediately backed away, clearly not wanting to get caught between 2 alphas fighting to the death. I crawled to where Leo and Iris were hiding under the bed, covering their eyes. Don't look, whatever you do, don't look. The fight was brutal, savage. Both alphas were bleeding, both wounded, both fighting with everything they had. Ray's was bigger, older, more experienced. But Kieran was faster, younger, and he was fighting for his family. They crashed through another wall, their battle taking them out into the hallway. I could hear them destroying everything in their path. Sarah was still alive, barely, her breathing shallow and pained. I crawled to her. Hold on, just hold on. She coughed, blood bubbling on her lips. Take the children, run. I'm not leaving you. You have to, Emma, the prophecy, you're the salvation, but only if you survive. Her eyes closed. Sarah, no. But she wasn't dead. I could still see her chest rising and falling, weak but steady. She'd just passed out from blood loss. The sounds of fighting were getting farther away. Kieran was leading Ray's away from us, away from Leo. He was protecting his son, even while fighting for his life. I looked at the 2 terrified children, at Sarah bleeding on the floor, at the destroyed room and the chaos outside. And I made a decision. I grabbed Leo and Iris. We're leaving right now. But Papa said... I know what he said, but Sarah's hurt and we can't help her here. We need to find the healers. I picked up Iris, who was lighter, and took Leo's hand. Stay close to me, don't let go for any reason. We ran through the palace, avoiding the main hallways where fighting was heaviest. I followed Sarah's directions from earlier, trying to remember the way to the underground safe rooms. We passed dead wolves, destroyed rooms, fires burning out of control. Silver Moon Pack was losing. Finally, we reached a staircase leading down. At the bottom was a heavy door with guards posted outside. "Let us in," I shouted. "I have the heir." The guards saw Leo and immediately opened the door. Inside was a massive underground chamber filled with cubs, mothers, elderly wolves, and healers working frantically to save the wounded. Leo, an older woman, rushed forward. "Thank the moon, you're safe." "We need a healer," I said. "Sarah is hurt, she's in the Alpha's chambers, she saved us." The woman immediately sent wolves to retrieve Sarah, while another healer looked over Leo and Iris, checking for injuries. They were physically fine, but their eyes had seen too much. I knelt in front of Leo. "Your father is fighting to keep us safe. He's the bravest Alpha that ever lived, and he's going to come back to us. Okay." Leo nodded, but tears were streaming down his face. "I want Papa." "I know, baby, I know." An explosion rocked the underground chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling. Cubs started crying. "They're breaking through," someone shouted. "The rogues are breaking through the main defenses." Panic spread like wildfire. I looked around at all these people, these wolves who were depending on their Alpha to save them, who believed in him, who loved him. And I realized something. The prophecy said I brought destruction and salvation. The destruction had come. The rogues, the war, the chaos. But the salvation, that was still waiting. And maybe, just maybe, I knew what I had to do. I stood up and walked to the woman who seemed to be in charge. "I need you to keep Leo safe. No matter what happens, promise me." She looked at me with wide eyes. "What are you going to do?" "Something stupid," I smiled grimly. "Something brave, something that might just save all of you." "You can't go back up there. You're human, you'll die." "Maybe, but maybe not." I looked back at Leo one more time. He was watching me with those silver eyes so much like his mother's. "Tell Kieran I love him, tell him I'm sorry, and tell him this is my choice." Then I ran. I ran back up those stairs, back into the burning palace, back toward the sound of fighting. I didn't have a plan, didn't have a weapon, didn't have anything except a crazy idea and a desperate hope. I followed the sounds of battle until I found them. Kieran and Raze still locked in combat. Both were covered in blood now, their movements slower, their breathing labored. They'd been fighting for hours, neither gaining the upper hand. Around them the battle raged. Silver Moon wolves against rogues, pack against army. And Silver Moon was losing. I saw wolves I recognized going down, saw homes burning, saw the future of this pack dying before my eyes. No, not like this. I ran straight toward the two Alphas, my voice rising above the chaos. "Stop." Both wolves froze, turned, looked at me with expressions of shock. Kieran shifted immediately, standing on two legs, his body battered and bleeding. "Emma, what are you doing? I told you to stay." "I know what you told me." I walked forward until I was standing between the two most powerful werewolves in the territory. "But I can't watch you die, I can't watch this pack be destroyed, so I'm making a choice." Raze shifted too, his massive form becoming human. He was even more terrifying like this. Tall, muscular, with scars covering every inch of his body and those fire-red eyes burning with madness. "And what choice is that, little human?" he asked, his voice amused. I looked at him, this creature who'd brought death to our doorstep. This rogue king who wanted to destroy everything Kieran had built. "You came here for me, didn't you? You heard about a human in Silver Moon Pack lands. You came to prove that humans make packs weak." Raze smiled slowly. "Smart girl. Then take me, let me go with you willingly. End this war, let these wolves live." I felt Kieran tense behind me, felt his rage building. "I'll go without a fight, I'll be your prisoner, your proof, whatever you want, just stop killing them." "No," Kieran roared. "Emma, don't you dare." "One human life for hundreds of wolves," I continued, ignoring Kieran. "That's a good trade, that's a fair trade." Raze studied me with those terrible eyes. "You'd sacrifice yourself for a pack that isn't even yours, for creatures that aren't even your species." "Yes. Why? Because they're innocent, because they don't deserve this, and because I looked back at Kieran, at this alpha who'd claimed my heart in such a short time. Because I love them. Kieran's expression crumbled. Emma, please, please don't do this. It's the only way, I said softly. Rays laughed, long and loud and full of cruel amusement. Oh, this is perfect, this is absolutely perfect. He walked closer until he was standing right in front of me. You want to know why I really came here, little human? It wasn't because of you, it was because of a prophecy that said an alpha would find his true mate, a human mate, and that together they would build a pack so strong it would challenge my rule. My blood turned to ice. I came here, Rays continued, to kill that mate before the prophecy could come true, to destroy any threat to my power. His smile widened. And you just confirmed that you're exactly who I was looking for. He moved so fast I didn't even see it. 1 second he was in front of me. The next, his hand was around my throat, lifting me off the ground. Kieran lunged, but 3 rogues appeared out of nowhere and pinned him down. Let her go, Kieran screamed, fighting against the rogues holding him. Take me instead, kill me, just let her go. Oh, I'm going to kill you, Rays said calmly. But first I'm going to make you watch her die. I'm going to make you feel the same pain I felt when my mate died. And then, when you're broken and empty, then I'll end you. His grip tightened on my throat. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream, could only claw uselessly at his arm. My vision started to go dark. This was it. This was how I died. And then something strange happened. I felt warmth spreading through my body, starting in my chest, moving outward like fire. It wasn't painful, it was powerful. Rays's eyes widened. What? Light exploded from my body, so bright that everyone had to look away. The hand around my throat loosened, and I fell to the ground, gasping. The warmth was growing stronger, hotter, more intense. And suddenly I understood. The prophecy wasn't just about destruction and salvation, it was about transformation. I was changing. My bones were shifting, my muscles were growing, my senses were sharpening. I could smell everything: blood, fear, smoke, the earth beneath my feet. I could hear heartbeats from 100 yards away. I could see in the darkness like it was daylight. And when I opened my mouth to scream, what came out was a howl. I was shifting. Me, a human, I was becoming a wolf. The transformation was agonizing and beautiful and impossible. My body was being remade, changed, turned into something new. Not human, not wolf, something in between, something unique. When it was over, I stood on 4 legs. My fur was pure white like snow. My eyes, I could see my reflection in a nearby window. My eyes were silver. Bright, shining silver. The entire battlefield had gone silent. Everyone, rogue and pack member alike, was staring at me in shock. Impossible, Rays breathed. Humans can't shift, it's not possible. But Kieran was smiling. Bleeding and battered and surrounded by enemies, but smiling like the sun had just risen. She's not just human, he said, his voice full of wonder and love and pride. She never was, she's the prophesied mate, the bridge between worlds, the salvation we've been waiting for. I looked at him, my alpha, my mate, and something clicked into place. A bond, silver and bright, snapping into existence between us. I could feel his heart beating, could feel his emotions, his love, his hope. We were connected, truly connected, mates in every sense of the word. And together we were unstoppable. I threw back my head and howled, long and loud and powerful, and every silver moon wolf answered. Their voices rose into the night, full of hope and strength and renewed purpose. Kieran broke free from the rogues holding him and shifted, his silver form racing toward mine. We met in the middle of the battlefield, 2 silver wolves, alpha and mate, ready to fight together. Rays screamed in rage and shifted too, his massive black form lunging at us. But now there were 2 of us. 2 alphas connected by a mate bond, fighting in perfect synchronization. And we were stronger together than either of us had ever been apart. The battle that followed was brutal and beautiful. Kieran and I moved like we'd been fighting together for years, each knowing exactly where the other would be, what they would do. When Kieran attacked from the left, I attacked from the right. When I was in danger, Kieran was there to protect me. When he faltered, I covered him. And slowly, impossibly, we started to win. The Silver Moon wolves saw their alpha fighting beside his mate, saw hope returning, and they rallied. They fought harder, faster, with renewed strength. The rogues, seeing their king struggling, seeing their advantage disappearing, started to retreat. Rays fought like a demon, but even he couldn't stand against two bonded alphas. We drove him back step by step, our combined power too much for him to overcome. Finally, with one last coordinated attack, we brought him down. He lay on the ground, bleeding and broken, his fire-red eyes dimming. "Kill me," he gasped, "finish it." But Kieran shifted back to human form and shook his head. "No, I won't give you the warrior's death you want. You'll live with your defeat. You'll live knowing you were beaten by the very thing you tried to destroy." He turned to his pack. "Take him to the border, strip him of his weapons and armor, let him crawl back to whatever hole he came from, and spread the word, any rogue who comes to Silver Moon lands will meet the same fate." Wolves moved forward and dragged Rays away. The remaining rogues scattered, running back into the forest. The battle was over. We'd won. Kieran turned to me, and I realized I was still in wolf form. I didn't know how to shift back. But then Kieran's hand was on my fur, his voice soft. "Just think of your human form, picture it in your mind, feel it." I closed my eyes and concentrated. The warmth came again, gentler this time, and slowly my body changed back. Bones shifting, muscles shrinking, fur receding. When I opened my eyes, I was human again. Naked, covered in blood and dirt, but human. Kieran immediately pulled off his torn shirt and wrapped it around me. Then he pulled me into his arms and held me like he'd never let go. "You're alive," he whispered. "You're alive and you're mine and you're perfect." I shifted, I said, still not quite believing it. "I actually shifted into a wolf." "You did, because you were always meant to be one of us. The prophecy knew, my wolf knew, you just needed the right moment to awaken it." He pulled back to look at me, his gold eyes shining with tears. "You saved us, Emma, you saved everyone." Around us the pack was gathering, wounded but alive, beaten but victorious, and they were all looking at me with expressions of awe and respect. "The Luna," someone whispered. "She's the prophesied Luna." The whisper spread through the crowd, growing louder, more certain. "The Luna, the Luna." And then, as one, every wolf in sight dropped to one knee and bowed their heads. To me. To their new Luna. I looked at Kieran in panic, but he was smiling. "They're acknowledging you," he said softly. "Accepting you, you're one of us now, your pack, your Luna, you're mine." "I don't know how to be Luna," I whispered. "You'll learn, we'll learn together." He took my hand and raised it high. "I present to you Emma Clark, my mate, your Luna, the bridge between worlds, the fulfillment of prophecy, the salvation of Silver Moon." The pack erupted in howls and cheers. Wolves shifted and danced, cubs laughed, the elderly cried tears of joy. Hope, after so much darkness and fear and death, there was finally hope. Leo came running through the crowd, Sarah limping beside him. He threw himself at me and Kieran, and we both caught him, holding him between us. "You did it," Leo cried, his face bright with joy. "You saved us. Emma, you turned into a wolf, that was so cool." I laughed through my tears. It was pretty cool, wasn't it? "Does this mean you're staying?" Leo asked, looking between us with hopeful eyes. "Does this mean you're really going to be my new mama?" I looked at Kieran, and he smiled at me with so much love it made my heart ache. "Yes," I said, pulling Leo closer. "I'm staying forever." Leo cheered and hugged us both tighter. Sarah grinned despite her injuries. "I told you, the prophecy, destruction and salvation." "The destruction was necessary," Kieran said, looking out at his pack, at his home, at everything we'd fought for. "It burned away the old ways, the rigid traditions, the fear of change, and from those ashes we build something new, something stronger." "Together," I added, lacing my fingers through his. "Together," he agreed. As the sun began to rise over Silver Moon pack lands, painting everything in gold and pink and orange, I realized something. I'd come here to protect a child, to save an innocent life. I'd expected to stay a few days, maybe a week, and then return to my quiet, normal existence. But I'd found so much more. I'd found a family, a home, a purpose. I'd found love. And I'd found myself. Not just the human Emma Clark who worked at a library and lived alone. But Emma Clark, Luna of Silver Moon pack, mate to an alpha, mother to an heir, a wolf who'd started life as a human and became something entirely new. "What are you thinking?" Kieran asked, watching me with those beautiful gold eyes. I smiled and leaned into him, feeling the mate bond humming between us, warm and perfect and right. I'm thinking, I said, that I accidentally adopted a werewolf child. His entire pack hunted me down and somehow it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. Kieran laughed and kissed me, soft and sweet and full of promise. The best is yet to come, he whispered against my lips. We have forever now, forever to build our life, to raise Leo, to lead the pack, to love each other. Forever, I agreed. And as Silver Moon Pack celebrated around us, as wolves danced and sang and gave thanks to the moon for their survival, I knew it was true. This was just the beginning. The beginning of a love that crossed species and defied prophecy. The beginning of a pack united not by fear or tradition, but by hope and acceptance. The beginning of forever. And I couldn't wait to see what came next. Thank you so much for joining me on Emma and Kieran's journey. If you loved this story, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another epic romance tale. Drop a comment below telling me your favorite moment from this story. Was it when Emma first stood up to Kieran? When she shifted for the first time? When they finally confessed their love? I want to hear it all. Your support means the world to me, and it's what keeps these stories coming. So subscribe, like, comment, and share this video with anyone who loves paranormal romance as much as you do. Until next time, beautiful souls, keep believing in impossible love stories. Because sometimes the most impossible ones are the ones that change everything. See you in the next story.